time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome.
You're echoing.
And again?
Yeah. You got that submarine sound.
There we go.
There you go.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Sunday evening edition of the New Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello. Oh, shit. Landrew's back.
Landrew's back. We thought Landrew got banned.
Yeah, I brought my jet ski back to the dealer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I read that. I was like, well, there goes my jet skiing on the Hudson.
Exactly. Landrew made his way back. Well, congratulations, Landrew, and thank you very much for being here tonight. Thanks, everybody, for being here tonight. Look at that. 1,132 to start things off right off the bat. That is fun stuff. Thanks all very much for being here. Just a little program note. We are going to do a film club night this Tuesday instead of Monday. It'll be Tuesday night. So patrons, cool kids, you'll get a doubleheader on Tuesday. You just have to reschedule that. Scheduling has been pretty crazy these last couple of weeks, as you may have realized. All right. So why don't we take care of some housekeeping before we start things off?
All right, so we have had a multi-day, very fruitful conversation with our friend Matt Taibbi, and although, to be clear, we have emphatically, throughout this discussion publicly, made it clear that we have no personal knowledge of any kinds of threats or pressures or compromised positions that Matt might be in. We've made it very clear we're just spitballing and speculating on why his work has taken such a drastic turn into the twilight zone of irrelevance. He has absolutely insisted that that is a personal choice. But one thing he really wanted to make clear is that the IRS owed him money, as was revealed in his hearings with Jim Jordan. We actually have the clip of it. We'll play that.
Unannounced visit to your home, which, by the way, they've discontinued because of this issue and a bunch of other crazy things they were doing. Is that right?
That's right, Mr. Chairman.
Just for the record, they actually owed you money, right? You didn't do anything wrong. Is that
They
accurate?
did. They owed me quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, now for a guy who wrote a whole last book about the invisible and unspoken pressures that can be brought to bear on a journalist, I don't know what part of our thesis Matt is not getting. And I really don't know why he thinks asserting that he decided to suck all on his own without being under any kind of threat of abuse of state power is better. But he is quite, email messages are off the record. We're not going to get into details. But Matt is extremely emphatic that he has chosen to bury every lead and miss the point of every story, and that the IRS owes him money. So we wanted to clarify.
Yes, and I will apologize for that. Was speculation on my part. And I'm actually surprised that I did not see that clip, because we did cover that. I was surprised that I didn't actually see that. And I don't remember if he brought it up when we interviewed him, because we interviewed, although this was February 2025, right? So we haven't spoken to him since then. Maybe it was clarified a couple of years ago. I'm not sure. But that clip, according to Forbes, was dated February. Yeah, happy to clarify that. And I will personally withdraw any speculation that I took part in, since to me it doesn't really matter. Your reasons for doing the work you do don't really matter to me as much as that you are doing the work you do. And so, yeah, no evidence of any compromised position that he's in whatsoever. And so I'm happy to retract all of that and wish Matt Taibbi best of luck. If after the genocide is over, we want to do a story about self-hating state flags, maybe we will get back in touch with you, because you're on that beat while we're focusing on trivial matters like genocide. So best of luck, Matt Taibbi, and I withdraw any and all speculation of that sort. All right.
Well, on the bright side, I heard he just got a book contract. I think the title of the book is going to be "Won't Anyone Think of the State Flags?"
State flags. That's right.
Yeah, that's coming out at a random house.
Exactly. Yeah. Or so we've heard. We have no proof.
So we've
of that.
heard.
Yes.
We have no evidence of that.
Yeah, no evidence of that.
We can only speculate.
Right, exactly. All right, let's move into things. We do have a lot of stuff to cover tonight. Thanks all for being here. 1712 strong in the YouTube chat, 629 strong over on Rumble. Smash that like button, please, and thank you. Smash that subscribe button. Don't forget, tonight is Sunday night. There will be a Q&A on Rumble after the show for the patrons. All right, let's jump right in. Hero of the week, Ted Cruz. Who had that on their bingo card?
That is probably, if you collectively put together everything Ted Cruz has said in his political life, the 3 minutes we're going to play for you is probably collectively the most cogent series of sentences he's ever mouthed. You could put together everything else he's ever said combined, and it would not equal 3 minutes of coherence. But somehow he pulled it off on this particular subject. It's pretty amazing. So here's our FCC commissioner, Brandon Carr, back in 2019. Should the government censor speech it doesn't like? Of course not. The FCC does not have a roving mandate to police speech in the name of the public interest. That's amazing. Look at him nailing it. And this is just this past February. While Biden encouraged social media companies to censor Americans, President Trump is restoring our First Amendment rights. Now the EU is pressuring our tech companies to start censoring online content again. It's important to push back on Europe's effort to silence speech. Now, I said at the time, he wasn't as visible, J.D. Vance was, that you could tell their level of sincerity by what they didn't mention and what they confined their critique of EU Digital Services Act to, like going after people praying outside of an abortion clinic while not at all mentioning all of the journalists like Richard Medhurst that have been harassed there. So here is Carr now singing a very different tune last week on Benny in the Closet.
I want to reinvigorate the public interest in. What people don't understand is that the broadcasters, and you've gotten this right, are entirely different than people that use other forms of communication. They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
You can do this the easy way, or we could do it the hard way. That's really up to you. It doesn't make a difference to me. I got guys on payroll. I need to keep them busy anyway. Not to be outdone in hypocrisy, here's Stephen Miller back in 2022. If the idea of free speech enrages you, the cornerstone of democratic self-government, then I regret to inform you that you are a fascist. This was Stephen Miller last week.
Let me tell you something I've not shared with anybody, but the last message that Charlie Kirk gave to me before he joined his creator in heaven was he said that we have to dismantle and take on the radical left organizations in this country that are fomenting violence. That was the last message that he sent me before that assassin stole him from all of us.
Listen, not that I would doubt the word of a psychopath in good standing like Stephen Miller, but I would love to see that message. It would be very out of character for this guy not to share that message if that were literally the last message he got from Charlie Kirk and he had evidence of that. I cannot imagine that this guy would not be plastering that all over the internet. I could be wrong. I'm speculating, but it seems a little convenient.
And we are going to do that under President Trump's leadership. I don't care how. It could be a RICO charge, a conspiracy charge, conspiracy against the United States, insurrection, but we are going to do what it takes to dismantle the organizations and the entities that are fomenting riots, that are doxing, that are trying to inspire terrorism, and that are committing acts of wanton violence. It has to stop. And my message is to all of the domestic terrorists in this country spreading this evil hate, you want us to live in fear? We will not live in fear, but you will live in exile, because the power of law enforcement under President Trump's leadership will be used to find you, will be used to take away your money, take away your power, and if you've broken the law, to take away your freedom, Sean.
Okay. This meme kind of says it all. The classic alternative buttons meme. Don't know what fascism is, knows what it is, but supports it anyway. Conservatives in the U.S. right now. Now, I got to say that's funny, but it's not entirely fair. As we will see, there are a lot of conservatives who are surprisingly speaking up. Some of them not so surprisingly, like Candace. I'm not too surprised. Ted Cruz is a surprise. So here's Donald Trump back in 2020 talking about cancel culture.
Is cancel weapons? Is cancel culture driving people from their jobs, shaming dissenters, and demanding total submission from anyone who disagrees? This is the very definition of totalitarianism, and it is completely alien to our culture and to our values, and it has absolutely no place in the United States of America.
I could not agree with 2020 Trump more. I think 2020 Trump needs to call 2025 J.D. Vance and let him know that 2020 Trump feels this way.
But you have a role too. Civil society, Charlie understood this well, is not just something that flows from the government. It flows from each and every one of us. It flows from all of us. So when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. And hell, call their employer. We don't believe in political violence, but we do believe in civility. And there is no civility in the celebration of political assassination. Get involved. Get involved. Get involved.
Huh. So wasn't this what the conservatives were speaking against? You shouldn't be calling people's employers and cancel culture, and that's freedom of speech. Stephen Miller says you're a fascist if you don't understand that free speech is a cornerstone of democracy. You know who else 2020 Trump might want to call? 2025 Trump.
Follow up on Charlie Kirk. There's been a lot of talk about free speech this week. Do you see a difference between cancel culture and consequence culture?
I mean, your question's a little trick question. I'm a very strong person for free speech. At the same time, when you have networks where I won an election, like in counties, I guess it's 2,600 to 525. That's called landslide times 2. When you have that level of popularity or voter support, as I did in the last election, and yet 97 and 94%, different numbers, you see different numbers with different stats, but 97, 94, 95, 96% of the people are against me in the sense of the newscasts are against me. The stories are they said 97% bad. So they gave me 97. They'll take a great story and they'll make it bad. See, I think that's really illegal, personally.
It's illegal. It's illegal for news stations to cover Donald Trump in a way that he considers unfair. And he is arguing that it is completely appropriate for the government to make decisions about what is fair and not fair, even as he lies about his own popularity. He keeps hitting lower and lower historic lows of his presidency. He just hit a new low last week. So that gives you an idea of what his idea would be of what is truthful. It's going to look like a totalitarian state media. Now, you could argue that there is this bias, and of course there is. We've covered that quite a lot. But he's talking about this on Newsmax. You know, it's not like there is not an alternate parallel universe where the facts are just as distorted, where he can go and get the narratives that he likes. And actually, those are watched by more people. So what's your problem? Now, somebody who really is surprising in all this is Rand Paul. You broke my heart, Rand. You broke my heart. Let's hear what he had to say.
I was assaulted 6-7 years ago, attacked from behind, had 6 ribs broken.
It was a man in the women's bathroom. He wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to be there either. We're not going to talk about that in this appearance.
What I suffered, they are encouraging other people to do it. And really, that ought to be taken down, and social media ought to be able to take that down. If people are saying this in their workplace, people say, oh, people have a right to say things. Well, actually, they don't necessarily have a right to say things. Many people have in their contract what we call a moral clause to their contract, or a conduct clause. My guess is you have something in your contract that says you have to behave in a certain way in public. Most people do. If you're in the military, you have a conduct code that you have to adhere to in your speech and the way you present yourself to the public. So I think it is time for this to be a crackdown on people. And like I say, it's perfectly legal and legitimate, particularly if it's part of the contract process.
That's right. And you know, it's unbelievable that it seems that it's always conservatives that are being targeted.
Wow. So this is Ken White here. Just a reminder, they were never actually against cancel culture. They were against the cancellation of people they agree with or like. They've always been enthusiastically in favor of canceling people they don't like. If you took them at their word, you're a useful idiot. Yes, fair enough. Here's Representative Clay Higgins going on a tear that makes AOC look like a great defender of liberty in the ACLU's Civil Liberties Department. I'm going to use congressional authority and every influence with big tech platforms to mandate immediate ban for life of every post or commenter that belittled the assassination of Charlie Kirk. If they ran their mouth with their smart-ass hatred, celebrating the heinous murder of that beautiful young man who dedicated his whole life to delivering respectful conservative truth into the hearts of liberal enclave universities, armed only with a Bible and a microphone and a constitution, those profiles must come down. So I'm going to lean forward in this fight, demanding that big tech have zero tolerance for violent political hate content, the user to be banned from all platforms forever. Hang on, so are you saying that speech equals violence? Is that what this conservative Republican is saying? Does speech equal violence now? Are they accepting that equation now, that speech is violence? I'm also going after their business licenses and permitting. Their businesses will be blacklisted aggressively. They should be kicked from every school, and their driver's licenses should be revoked. I'm basically going to cancel with extreme prejudice these evil, sick animals who celebrated Charlie Kirk's assassination. I'm starting that today. That is all. Wow. That's quite a turnaround. It's like the height of George Floyd, only in reverse. Here's Brian Stelter. I asked FCC Chair Brendan Carr if he had any new comment now that ABC has pulled Jimmy Kimmel's show, and he sent me this GIF. And it's a GIF of The Office where they're pumping their hands in celebration. Here's Benny in the closet commenting on that tweet. This is me and Brendan Carr right now. Libs of TikTok, incredibly bait. Do you remember all these people just a year ago all screaming about the sanctity of the First Amendment and free speech and how terrible it was that the libs were coming after their social media platforms? There were actually, our friend Matt Taibbi did some great reporting about how revealing in the Twitter files how they were shadow banning conservative accounts and falsely smearing people. Seems like they're perfectly okay with that as long as it's not happening to them. This is Nico Perino. He is the executive vice president of FIRE, which in many ways has taken up the defense of the First Amendment that was once the exclusive purview of the ACLU. Brendan Carr wrote the new textbook definition of jawboning when he said of Kimmel and ABC, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And he celebrates his censorship with a lame meme, which in a sane world would be an exhibit in a lawsuit. Yeah, but they're not going to sue. You know why? Because they have a merger pending. Kimmel was the deal sweetener. And put this in the record, too. This is from an article. Wall Street Journal reported on this as well. This is from Rolling Stone. They were pissing themselves all day, one ABC insider tells Rolling Stone. In the hours leading up to the decision to pull Kimmel, two sources familiar with the matter say senior executives at ABC, Disney, and affiliates convened emergency meetings to figure out how to minimize the damage. Multiple execs felt that Kimmel had not actually said anything over the line, the two sources say, but the threat of Trump administration retaliation loomed. Obviously, ABC did not pull him off the air because of what he said. They pulled him off the air because they have a merger pending and because they're afraid of what Trump might do. So here is Candace Owens doing the Lord's work and speaking out against this. And I'm sure she despises Jimmy Kimmel, as do we. It's beside the point. It is entirely beside the point.
Chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, jumped up and he criticized Jimmy Kimmel's remarks. He threatened federal action against ABC affiliates who carried the show. What? Federal action if you carry the Jimmy Kimmel show? Does that seem right to you? Okay, again, if you're on the right and you cheered this on, do you understand? We never, ever, ever should be applauding federal action when it comes to speech. Okay, we're all losing. We are all losing. You have to wake up. But that's what happened. Brendan Carr of the FCC was joining Benny Johnson, and that's what he said, that he absolutely wants to make sure that people are not carrying this show anymore, and that after, one of the mergers that they did, I just see the same people are constantly being empowered. And I want to point that out to you because you have to be more conscious of that. It's like they use our emotions, left versus right, to manipulate all of us. And it's completely wrong. And it's completely crazy. And they're also calling for him to make a meaningful personal donation to the Kirk family and Turning Point USA. What?
Candace Owens may not be the leader we asked for, but she's the leader we need, God damn it. But probably the most shocking voice speaking out against this was Ted Cruz. I am gonna play a good portion of his remark because he put it perfectly and explained all the angles in ways that any conservative should embrace. He's making very much the argument that we made against cancel culture for the entire time that we've had the show. We told people who embrace that, what do you think's going to happen when they come into power? What do you think they're going to do to you once you open this door? And now here we are. And Ted Cruz makes the argument against taking it up another notch.
The Federal Communication Commission is in charge of granting broadcast licenses. So ABC, NBC, CBS, they have licenses from the FCC. It is true that under statute, they're required to be in the public interest.
Yep.
What he is saying is Jimmy Kimmel was lying. That's true. He was lying. And his lying to the American people is not in the public interest. And so he threatens explicitly, we're going to cancel ABC's license. We're going to take him off the air so ABC cannot broadcast anymore. And I got to say, he threatens it. He says, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way.
Yeah.
And I got to say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. And I got to say, look, I understand.
Amazing. His acting career never took off.
Is Ted Cruz working a bit? Is this Ted Cruz working a bit?
You know, there's like an ultra viral clip of him, I think, playing like it was some Shakespeare play in college.
Really?
And he has some line. I forget what the line is. People will know this. It went viral of him like doing some monologue. It was so funny. I'll try and find it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I can imagine from this how that went.
Yeah.
Dan. Jimmy Kimmel has mocked me so many times I cannot count. The corporate media, they are dishonest. They are liars. I hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired. But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying,
what
we don't like what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like, that will end up bad for conservatives. It reminds me of, you and I are both fans of The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
J.R.R. Tolkien. It reminds me of like the Ring of Power. And it is so attractive. It's sort of like conservatives are saying, wait, if we have government, we have power. Yeah. We can ban the media. Let me tell you what will happen. Going down this road, there will come a time when a Democrat wins again. Wins the White House.
They will get rid of every
Democrat
talk show host in
FCC,
America that's a conservative. They'll get rid of every podcast. They'll get rid of everybody on YouTube.
They will silence us. They will use this power, and they will use it ruthlessly.
Yeah.
And that is dangerous. And by the way, in the Biden administration, they tried to go after and revoke Fox's license because they didn't like, and they say everything they say on Fox is hate speech. I'm sure they say everything you and I say is hate speech, is misinformation. Sure. They've defined anything counter to the leftist narrative as misinformation. Now, we just talked about Jimmy Kimmel was lying. But you know what? It's interesting. Brendan said, well, gosh, they slandered Charlie Kirk and his family. You know what? If they slandered him, there's already a remedy. There's a remedy of defamation. ABC could be sued. And by the way, you get a defamation lawsuit, you could pay millions of dollars. Let that process play out. I think it is unbelievably dangerous for government to put itself in the position of saying, we're going to decide what speech we like and what we don't, and we're going to threaten to take you off air if we don't like what you're saying. And it might feel good right now to threaten Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
But when it is used to silence every conservative in America, we will regret it. And so, again, I like Brendan Carr, but we should not be in this business. We should denounce it. It's fine to say what Jimmy Kimmel said was deplorable, it was disgraceful, and he should be off air, but we shouldn't be threatening government power to force him off air. That's a real mistake.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
I have not used that one in a while, but it fits this story very well. Yeah, man. Exactly. The ACLU, which was not an organization overrun by right-wing conservatives and Nazis, famously defended the right of Nazis not only to march, but to march through Skokie, a neighborhood full of Holocaust survivors. Why did they do that? Because they understood that once you allow the principle of free speech to be compromised, that slippery slope is going to lead right back to your door. Once you allow them to censor someone you don't like, the next step is going to be censoring someone you do like. This is case in point. Who opened this door? Yes, the cancel culture left. That's why we spoke against it. We said this was going to happen, and here we are. So what do you think's going to happen if they come back into power? And you've opened the door of revoking TV licenses for misinformation. Yes, they were cuckoo running around accusing everyone of misinformation, going so far as to accuse the media accurately reporting on Joe Biden's melting brain of generating cheap fakes, because they couldn't say they were fakes. They came up with a term for it. Yeah. What do you think they're going to do with this power when they get back in charge? They are absolute. Ted Cruz, these are words I've never spoken before, and I probably never will again. Ted Cruz is absolutely right, except on one thing, and this actually is instructive on part of why this is so dangerous. I don't concede the idea that even if what he said was untruthful, that he should be pulled off the air, that the government should be able to decide what is true or what is not, because that's really what you're opening the door to. Who decides? Who watches the watchmen? What he said is not even a statement of fact. It's a statement of opinion. We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. He does not even say there what he is. He doesn't actually say he's MAGA.
Yeah.
He says that the MAGA movement is trying desperately to argue that he's not MAGA. That's all he said. It's a statement of an opinion about the MAGA movement. It is not a statement about whether the kid is MAGA or not. And you can see, even as Cruz is trying to climb down from this, or trying to persuade conservatives to climb down from this and to oppose this, even he will not oppose that basic framing, which is in itself false. So even if you were to accept the idea, and I do not, that the government would have this right, this is case in point of why you can't give them that power, because they're lying about the nature of what he said. That is how those kinds of codes would be enforced. It would not simply be, as some of the more chud-minded or argue, well, you don't have a right to lie on the... It's not going to stop there. Even if you accept that premise, and I do not, it will not stop there. Obviously, that's why you don't open that door.
Yeah, no, I mean, what he said, as I've said before, it was spin. Like, yeah, saying they're desperate to say this wasn't one of theirs. Yeah, are you kind of finessing the cue ball toward the side of the table where, yeah, okay, it kind of leads people to make certain assumptions? Yeah, I mean, I would say guilty of that, but that's the same kind of liberal spin that happens on these shows all the time. Sure. I mean, it's a liberal-oriented show. It's not like an egregious lie. It's not a false... Like, look, if he went out there and straight out lied, and I'm the president of ABC, I might sit him down and say, listen, you got to clean this up. I know it's a comedy show, but this was just blatantly untrue, so you got to correct it. Okay, fine. Even then, I don't think the FCC should get involved. But that's not what this was. This was spin. Now,
look,
as
Cruz says, you could sue. You could sue.
You could sue
There's
for that.
A remedy.
Right. Like if
there
someone
is a
maligns
legal
you
remedy
in that way, you could sue for that. There are other ways to deal with it. Yes, exactly.
So finally, hey, kudos. For the most part, Quillette has devolved into an outlet kind of similar to the Free Press. I wouldn't line my bird cage with it if I had a bird. But hey, this is great. I would recommend this article very highly. The post-Kirk clampdown. The current frenzy of cancel culture recalls the progressive lunacy that followed the murder of George Floyd. But the current iteration is more dangerous because it is backed by state power. Exactly. This is Patrick Frey. So we'll read a little bit of this. Earlier this week, someone remarked to me that the current cancel culture frenzy is the craziest since the lunacy of the George Floyd riots in 2020. That was a time when a center-left Nashville choral composer could be stripped of his music career for objecting when rioters vandalized his city's historic courthouse. Quote, "Enjoy burning it all down, you well-intentioned blind people," Daniel Elder tweeted. "I'm done." A backlash followed, and his publisher handed Elder a pre-written apology that conceded he could offer no justification for his insensitive and wrongly worded post. Elder refused to sign it. As Robbie Suave reported a year later, Elder's publisher has blackballed him. Local choral directors refuse to program his music for fear of provoking a backlash. They won't even let him sing in the choir. We were long told that left-wing cancel culture was the worst possible type because the left had captured the institutions of media, entertainment, and higher education. But cancel culture backed by state power is worse for two very important reasons. First, there is no competition. And second, the state has a monopoly on lawful violence. Threatening a broadcast license may not sound like a pointed gun, but if the threat is carried out, and if everyone responsible for obeying the order resists, sooner or later, someone is going to have a gun pointed in his face. Yep, that's where that goes. Where does that go? Eventually, someone's going to say no. And how do you respond to that? Do you send the troops, as has happened in many countries, as has happened in Ukraine that we support? They're going to send the troops to shut down a TV station, to shut down a newspaper. These are the things that they are gradually normalizing by putting troops on American streets, as a judge recently ruled in clear violation of posse comitatus that does not allow the use of the military for law enforcement. They're trying to get you used to the idea that the military can come out and start rounding people up. It's starting with the immigrants. It's going to end with the dissidents, as it always does. If you look at Trump's rhetoric, what do you think he's setting you up for? How dangerous is it to have a chief executive say, yeah, they're very mean to me. They're very mean to me. They hurt my fifis. We're going to have to go after their broadcast license. And this is happening at a moment, as it would by of necessity have to be, when our institutions are so weakened that there are very few checks on his power. Even if technically a lot of what he does is illegal, there's nobody there to enforce it. The courts have been so compromised. Congress has been neutered. They're just able to get away with almost anything. There was actually in the Quillette article, they quoted someone saying what Viktor Orban did in 15 years, Donald Trump has done in a matter of months. And this is a full-on assault on constitutional democracy. This doesn't matter. Yes, we did not have a democracy. We had oligarchs basically running the show long before Donald Trump showed up. That's how we ended up getting Donald Trump. At the same time, there were certain institutional safeguards that still remained that he and his backers are busily dismantling. This is a time, look, Ted Cruz, Candace Owens speaking out against this. Tim Dillon dropped a video about this. This is a time when that shit all needs to be set aside. We need to come together and defend the right to freedom of speech.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've been on this page for the last week and a half of what a cataclysmic event this Kirk assassination was. We've seen this movie before. This is like the week after 9/11. Say, wait a minute, I have a Fourth Amendment right. Yeah, okay. You'll see how much that Fourth Amendment right does to you when you have no power. And when a cataclysmic event prompts those in power to act in ways that defy constitutional norms. All there is power at the end of the day, which is why I'm not surprised by any of this at all. I've seen some people in the space who I like a lot, and who I think are correct in the substance of what they say, but they're saying things like, wow, this is kind of strange. No, it's not. No, it's not. As soon as that news came across my feed on September 10th, I knew exactly that this stuff was going to happen. It's obvious. It's completely obvious because it's that large an event. And so, yeah, I mean, it's something you could see coming. And, in times like these, you have to be a survivor and not a martyr. So that's what I would say. I've been on that beat for the last week and a half. I'm not going to go on a 20-minute monologue about this now. But look, I mean, the good news is that Ted Cruz is saying this is wrong. So that shows you. And if you look at if you look at the data and you look at the numbers, most people are against all of this draconian shit when it comes to like even immigration. You look to immigration, which was his strongest issue. Most people are against the way his mandate has been executed in such bad faith, right? And what you have to do, all you can do in a moment like this is, yes, advocate for your First Amendment rights. It'll do you about as much good as advocating for your Fourth Amendment rights did after 9/11. Do that because it's the right thing to do, but also find that sweet spot where you like I said, you own the center of the country. Make sure you stay in the pocket of where everyone can take your side. I think that is hugely important because most people are on the free speech side of this, just like most people think ICE has gone too far. Most people think Israel is committing mass murder in Palestine. I don't know if most people are versed enough in terminology to label it genocide, but they understand it's mass murder. It's wrong, right? That's your only hope in getting through this. And it's not just a matter of voting. It's a matter of building the kind of solidarity. Look what happened when the longshoremen said, we'll cripple you if you don't give us what we want. Okay, so what if you build that kind of solidarity around issues like this? We're not going to work. If the FCC is going to start bullying people, we're not working. Like, that's what you got to do. You have to build solidarity amongst mass groups of people. And you have to do it peacefully because you're going to get fucking thrown in a dungeon or killed if you don't. Right? So you have to do it peacefully, and you have to put in the nuts and bolts work of building that solidarity. That's the only chance you have. Is it a guarantee it's going to work? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But that's the only chance you have. Because in moments like this, power goes wild. It went wild after 9/11. It's going to go wild now, especially given the orientation of this crew and especially who Charlie Kirk was and what he represented. So yeah, that's what I would have to say. That's my take on that. But the good news, like I said, is that opposition to this ranges from Mark Maron to Ted Cruz. So that's something.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get on with the program here. All right. Michael Castillo gives a super chat here. Fox News is saying that it was a miracle that the round didn't kill everyone around Charlie. Yeah, we're going to get to that. That actually stopped the bullet like Wolverine, like divine intervention or something. We're not stupid. Thank you, Michael Castillo. Appreciate that. Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $4.99. Appreciate that very much. Charles says, Israeli trolley problem, 1 terrorist on a track and 2 on the other with 3 civilians. What do they do? We know. Exactly. Landrew is here. Let's have a cowbell for Landrew. Oh, Landrew. Okay, so Landrew, you know we love you, Landrew. But if you got banned for writing that joke, then we obviously can't say it if you got banned for writing it. But Landrew says, back from being banned for 1 week for this joke. It's in the chat scroll. You can read it if you want. Free Palestine.
Landrew.
Yeah.
Landrew is dead.
I mean, if you got banned for writing it, what are you going to do?
He was dead, but he's been revived.
Well, he probably got a strike, just like they give to us.
Oh,
yeah?
Do they give strikes to civilians?
I guess they give strikes to civilians. I don't know. I guess that's what happened. I guess you got a strike. But, if we get a strike, then we go away for at least a week. And so, we have to protect the community. We have to wear a mask and not say that, right? We have to stop the spread of strikes. But thank you, Landrew. Appreciate that very much. CIA head, mask, and Hollywood next squib. No bull, E.T. No bullets. Oh, got it. Thank you for that. All right. Ex-Barbarian, did you all see the video of Tom Homan accepting 50 grand in bribes? DOJ dismissed after Trump took over. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, we did talk a lot about that. I mean, that was actually on the list for a while. One of the things I told Russell about that, I'm like, that doesn't surprise me either. Like when you get to a level where there's this authoritarian, creep, these stories are like, you may as well not, right? Like, it does not matter. Like, if you're close to power and you're doing the work that power wants you to do, there's no chance you'll pay any consequence for any kind of crime.
Did the video
whatsoever.
actually come out? Because I started doing the research on it. It was either the Homan story or the H-1B story. We didn't have room for both, and I thought the latter was more important.
Yeah, the latter is more important because a story like that is just, you're in a situation now where it's fuck me, fuck you.
It's your rubbernecking at the car crash.
Exactly. Hey, we got a huge crowd in here. 3,607 in the YouTube chat. In the year 2525. 1,000 over on Rumble. That's rock and roll. We got 963 likes. Let's smash that like button, everybody. Let's see if we can get our magic 6666 crowd tonight. We are ways away. We have, what do we got? We're up to 5,000, so we need another 1,500 between all the forums, and we get there. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to smash that like button. Thank you all very much for being here. Jake is in the booth tonight. Shout out to Jake. Thanks, Jake, for being here. Hillary Hinton says, today's my 56th birthday, dirtbags. I expect a top-notch show and possibly some well wishes from Finkelstein and Alex Jones. Sorry about the dirtbags thing. Congratulations on another trip around the sun, my friend.
Happy birthday, but it's after 56 they start to put the microchips in your dick.
Yeah, so it's could be your last.
Might be your last.
It's gonna be your last if you
start
want to
getting
live.
messages from space in your grundle.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go visit supermalevitality.com and place your order today if you want to live past 58. Abiding says Shoe on Head had same reaction to shooting an online discourse as you, Keaton. You guys should try and have her on. I believe she lives in upstate New York. Oh, interesting. All right.
Oh, does she?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you for that. I don't follow. Like I said, I only watch our friends, and it's no disrespect to everybody else. It's just not. I don't have time. Yeah. But thank you for putting that on my radar. Maybe I'll
I'm
check
surprised you have time to watch as much as you do.
Well, sometimes, if I'm cooking, I'll put it on in the background or something like that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And I drive a lot. Whenever Russ calls me in the car.
That's it.
I do drive a lot. So I get to listen to a lot in the car.
When I'm cooking and eating, I refuse to listen to this shit.
Yeah.
I refuse to. You know what the problem is now, though? The nerd channels that are my this doesn't matter, shut my brain off thing have become so stomach-churningly obnoxious.
Right.
That it's starting to not be a relief from this because they're all trying to get political now.
Right.
It's like they were always kind of vaguely anti-woke, but more nerd stuff.
Right.
Like now they want to talk about Charlie Kirk and all. It's like, dude, stay in your fucking lane. Shut up. Shut up. You know what occurred to me listening to Ted Cruz talking about Lord of the Rings and all this, and it's occurred to me increasingly listening to these nerd channels as somebody who grew up, collecting comic books and this kind of thing. Look, like most nerds, like most people who are really into fantasy and sci-fi to that point, all of these Silicon Valley guys, that's why they called it Palantir. It's from Lord of the Rings. All these people are into that shit. Chances are you were like a lonely kid, and they're all very wounded. Now, this stuff was all pretty niche when I was growing up, and now it went mainstream. And you're seeing the result of wounded man-children becoming extremely powerful culturally and politically. And it's not pretty.
No,
it's not pretty. Because what do they want to do? They want to take revenge on all the people who were mean to them when they were 6.
Yeah. Oh, it's the Crucible. It wasn't Shakespeare. It's the Crucible. Okay, I knew my friend would know. It's Ted Cruz performing the Crucible. And he says the line is, "Why am I persecuted?" Yeah. All right, I got to show you this. Okay, hold on. Stand by. I'll show you this right now. People will love this. I knew my friend would know that. And so I just messaged her, and yeah, this is great. This is great. So this must have been like in college or something, but this is Ted Cruz acting in The Crucible. And this is his delivery, which shows you why he was never an actor. This is really good stuff. Hold on, I'll raise the volume here. Yeah, here it is.
Hang on. Did he have the lead?
I guess. I mean,
John Proctor. He played John Proctor.
I guess, because he would say, "Why am I persecuted?" Right. So this is here. So here he is as John Proctor.
Why am I persecuted here? Why am I persecuted here?
Why am I persecuted here? That's Ted Cruz's acting chops, everybody. Yeah. All right. Thanks to my pal for looking that up for me. Okay. Vito says, "Holy cow, Charlie Kirk must have messaged 1,000 people the day he died. Everybody heard from him. Cancer sucks. You guys rock." Did you hear he reached out to Van Jones, and Van Jones didn't check his DMs until after he had been killed? He reached out to Van Jones, inviting him to, like, have a talk.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Texican, thanks for the $50.
Hey,
cowbell.
you don't like the Jews, right? You're not.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ken Texican, thanks for the $50. Appreciate that. Been enjoying the hell out of your vids when time allows. Strong work with Katie and BJG this week. Thanks, DD. Thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that. Yes, we had a very busy but very fun week last week. As fun as it could be under the circumstances, of course, but it was great to be on Katie's show and Brianna's show. All right, let's move right on along here. Okay, so this was all of the talk last night. Man of Steel, writes Fox News. Charlie Kirk's body stopped a bullet that would typically just go through everything, and it was an absolute miracle nobody else was killed. His surgeon told TPUSA. So what this is based on is the following tweet from Andrew Colvett, who's at TPUSA. So he is recounting a conversation with the surgeon. So he tweets out, and as you can see, 14 million views as of the time I put this slideshow together. This was absolutely everywhere, I guess, last night. Pardon me. I want to address some of the discussion about the lack of an exit wound with Charlie. So there was no exit wound according to the video, and Candace Owens watched the footage from the back. There was a camera set up in back of Charlie Kirk, and she said she saw no exit wound, which we'll get to. I'm usually not interested in delving into most of this kind of online chatter, and I apologize this is somewhat graphic, but in this case, the fact that there wasn't an exit wound is probably another miracle, and I want people to know. I just spoke with the surgeon who worked on Charlie in the hospital. He said the bullet absolutely should have gone through, which is very normal for a high-powered, high-velocity round, the 30-06. I've seen rounds from this caliber many times, and they always just go through everything. Wounds, sorry. This would have taken a moose or two down, an elk, etc. But it didn't go through. Charlie's body stopped it. I mentioned to his doctor that there were dozens of staff, students, and medical guests standing, and special guests. Sorry, I got to full screen this because I'm not able to see this properly. There we go. Sorry about that. That there were dozens of staff, students, and special guests standing directly behind Charlie on the other side of the tent. And he replied, "It was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed. His bone was so healthy and the density was so impressive that he's like the Man of Steel. It should have just gone through and through. It likely would have killed those standing behind him too. In the end, the coroner did find the bullet just beneath the skin. Even in death, Charlie managed to save the lives of those around him. Remarkable. Miraculous." So if you go on Twitter, there's all kinds of videos that you could see of these rounds just going through targets, watermelons, etc., just decimating whatever they hit. And so the odds of this being real are just 1 in a million, to the point where, yes, if it was true, it would be a miracle. If you believe in miracles, God bless you. I don't believe in miracles. I believe in cover-ups. That's what I believe in. I believe in the long-documented history of cover-ups, and that's what this seems like to me. So Chris Martinson says, "This is next-level BS. The standard 30-06 round will go all the way through 14-inch pine trees with ease. I'm sorry, but this story isn't true. Also, The pounds of force would have pushed Charlie's head backwards violently if it had absorbed and stopped the bullet completely. I was asked to suspend simple laws of physics on 9/11. I'm not doing it this time either. Must be talking about that building that didn't get hit by anything that fell down from an office fire. Maybe that's what he's talking about there. I don't know. I'm no expert.
The one where there are videos of the news saying the building collapsed before it actually collapsed.
Yeah, that one. That one. Uncalled for him to bring that up. That totally checked out.
That's crazy shit.
Other than that, I think he makes some good points there. So Health Ranger says, I'm really not trying to be graphic, and it pains me to even have to address this, but the narrative is becoming so delusional, we must call it out. If a 30-06 round, which carries 300 foot-pounds of energy, 3,000 plus foot-pounds of energy, entered his neck and was stopped by his neck would have, I don't even want to say that's too graphic, but you all see that. Obviously, this immense damage. Why? Because 3,000 foot-pounds of energy has to go somewhere. If a round exits the body, it takes remaining energy with it. But if it doesn't exit the body, then 100% of the energy is delivered to the tissues being impacted. If you deliver 3,000 foot-pounds of energy to literally any human neck in a fraction of a second, it's going to be like a grenade went off. And clearly that didn't happen. We can now conclusively say he was not shot with a 30-06 round, so somebody's lying, and yes, it's a cover-up. I'm not an expert on ballistics, obviously, so I'm just reading his opinion here. In explaining this shooting, you can't make up your own laws of physics and anatomy. Your explanation has to align with reality. Otherwise, it's just BS. Brian Ferenczi says, this is some of the most over-the-top gaslighting I have ever seen, literally claiming Charlie Kirk's bones were so like Superman, they stopped a bullet designed to take down a moose. Something is very wrong here. Buck Johnson says, I texted a friend who's a professional sniper and SWAT guy. Here's his response to this story. I find it very unlikely that his neck stopped a bullet with 2,500 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. The 30-06 is the same diameter of our 308 bullets, but with more powder velocity. I've never seen a 308 not pass through a head, neck, or torso. A 30-06 would be more hard-hitting. As for the news piece, if it's real, it's strange and hard to understand the purpose and message. So Genghis Khan, who is a retired sniper, according to him, says this is the best yet. Apparently Charlie Kirk's body has the same rating as a level 4 steel or ceramic bulletproof plate rating and stopped the 30-06 round, which was a direct hit on his throat. They suddenly and miraculously found the bullet. You can't make this shit up. A bullet which can kill an elk or full-grown grizzly bear and go through half an inch of steel plate at 100 yards was stopped in its tracks by Charlie Kirk's neck, apparently, and that's why there was no exit wound. It's a miracle. Now I've heard everything. But what would I know, right? I'm just a retired sniper. No exit wound confirmed, says Murray. Now everyone who is calling Candace a liar about that fact can apologize. What was the caliber of the bullet? The surgeon admitting that it was a miracle makes the official story even harder to believe. So yeah, here is Candace Owens having claimed that she saw the video from the camera directly behind Charlie Kirk, the one that was stationed behind him. She says there was no blood, there was no gore from that angle, which means there was no exit wound. So she sets this up for a minute and then she gets into it.
Agrees that rather than send the footage, he will get onto a FaceTime call with me and he will show me the footage on his computer. He did that and I watched the footage and I'm going to tell you what I saw. And to the people specifically, the people that are in the military, people that know weapons, I'm telling you this because you might be able to add more color or more clarity here. What you would expect to see. If given the weapon that they have said did this, the bullet they have said did this, I don't know anything about any of this. So I'm just telling you what I saw, okay? First and foremost, there is nothing gory about this shot at all. And so again, I am still going to work with him to get me the footage so that I think it should be shared. There's nothing gory about this footage from the back. The thing that really stood out to me, and I just kept asking him to replay it over and over and over again, is that there's no blood. There's no blood. from the back. There is no blood. So I think a lot of people were wondering whether or not that bullet pierced and went out to the back. I think I vaguely even remember, and Skylar, you can maybe live look this up, but like I thought the feds were saying they were looking for a bullet at some point, which is now very alarming to me. I don't understand that. How could they have been looking for a bullet? Because if I'm not seeing, and there isn't, I'm telling you, what happens in the front is not what happens in the back at all. If I'm not seeing any blood, what are we to take from that?
What I take from that is that there was no exit wound if the shot came in from the direction that we all think, well, if most of us who have seen the video, and if you haven't, it's horrible to see, so I can't say I urge you to, but you see a wound and blood coming out, and what she's saying is when she saw the angle from the back, there was no blood from that angle, which means if that was coming in from the front, there could have been no exit wound. Now, at the time she made this video, they had not released that tweet. Now they're saying the bullet was inside of him. The bullet was inside of him, which, again, for all these reasons that we've been looking at, it's just very, very hard to believe that his neck, which does not have strong bones in it, I mean, your neck doesn't have strong bones. Even if it did, you're talking about a bullet that, you know, go through trees, killed moose and elk and buffalo. It just seems extraordinary unlikely, which is why the surgeon supposedly said it's a miracle. It's a miracle. So now we have to believe in miracles if we want to believe what they're telling us. And Candace, yesterday night, assumedly in response to all this was not a reply, but it's pretty obvious what she's getting at here. Right about now, I think that whoever made the decision to assassinate Charlie Kirk is recognizing that it was a terrible mistake. They thought they were going to grassy knoll it. Instead, they awaken the entire world. So, yeah, those are strong words from someone whose story was vindicated to the extent that she could know anything. Obviously, she couldn't know where the bullet was or whether they found one or not. But what she's saying is, look, from the angle I saw, there was no blood, which means there was no exit wound. And yeah, you had a lot of, she gets a lot of shit. A lot of people accused her of lying and making it up. And obviously she was not lying. Obviously there was no exit wound from the back. So now you have to say, okay, how could that bullet, that size, fired from that range, that had to be moving close, 2,000 feet per second, didn't make it through? Or was that not the bullet that hit him? Like, that's just a reasonable question at this point. And these questions are starting to add up to the point where, as we're going to see in our next segment, Kash Patel is now starting to validate some of these suspicions. He's not brushing off all of this as crazy conspiracy talk. He can't. He can't. Too many people are asking too many questions, and it's not just loony left-wing people or like habitual conspiracy theorist people who are asking these questions. These questions are becoming mainstream because this just does not add up. It just does not add up. And this is just one more thing where you look at it, and now we're supposed to believe in miracles. That's your explanation? It was a miracle that the bullet didn't make it through? I don't buy it. I don't buy it one bit. And with that, I welcome back to the soundboard returning champion, Michael Savage.
Can't take the bullshit from this fucking government. It's lying to us.
Yes. Yeah. Amen. Amen, Dr. Savage. One more time.
I can't take the bullshit from this fucking government. It's lying to us.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a bunch of bullshit. This is adding up to be a huge pile of bullshit, I think. Well, I'm not alone, obviously.
I think what Candace doesn't understand, because I'm not sexist, I'm not a misogynist, but, Candace is a woman. All the men in this space, we don't just sell supplements, we take them. Yeah. And Charlie was taking a bone supplement that could have stopped that round.
You know what I have to say? I know you're doing a bit here, but I do have to say, because I almost put this in the segment, but I didn't because he got a fact wrong. Not the first time Alex Jones has gotten a fact wrong. But Alex Jones did make a video in response to this and said, yeah, this is bullshit. This is definitely a cover-up now. He got it wrong. He said they didn't find a bullet when they did actually find a bullet. So it got community noted, and he got, shit for that. So I didn't include that in here since I wanted to keep things kind of accurate. But on a large point, he's now on the page of, and he even said, hey, who knows? Maybe Israel did do it, so yeah.
This is a very difficult moment to figure out how not to piss off most of my paying subscribers.
Yeah.
So he has a different take every day.
It is. It is a different take every day.
One day it's they killed Charlie because he loved family and Jesus.
Right.
And then the next day it's the Jews. And then the next day that's just crazy talk. It was the transes. He's really like every day he's taking the temperature
seeing what works.
To see what side of the line he wants to fall on. Yeah, it's obviously a cover up. I know you're covering this in the next segment. Yeah, these guys, Patel, Bongino, they're just fucking shills. Like in my opinion, if Kash Patel is making allowances for that, it's just to sheepdog people back into an official narrative.
Yeah, that could
like
very well be true.
He's not a real FBI director.
Look,
he just takes orders from the top and does what they tell him to do. He has no independence. This is a man, as we said over and over and over again, when people were glazing Crazy Eyes Patel, this guy wrote a fucking children's book where he cast himself as a wizard protecting King Donald, and you thought this would be a good guy to run the FBI? You thought he was going to have some kind of independence? What if a Democrat appointed an FBI director with that backstory? You'd be mocking that to Kingdom Come. You'd probably call for an investigation. I just can't believe some of the people who should have known better, who have done good work, who were running around behaving as if Kash Patel was going to clean up the deep state and not simply replace it with their own version.
Yeah, it is pretty atrocious stuff, which we'll get to, like I said, in the next piece. But you just add this to the list of things that now you have to believe. This is back when I thought it mattered, I used to argue about 9/11 with a lot of people. And when you just add up piece after piece after piece, that just makes no sense. Eventually you come to the conclusion that the official story makes no sense. Now that's the only conclusion we could reach right now, right? And look, as Max Blumenthal has said when he's talked about this a number of times, he says, look, if I can be convinced that this was a lone wolf leftist who acted alone, I'd be totally willing to accept that. As would I said, I condemn the shooting no matter who did it for what reason. I don't have an axe to grind in terms of saying, no, it can't possibly be. No, like wherever the facts go, they go. These are not these are not fact. I'm sorry. Like you can't say, I talked to the surgeon and he said it was a miracle that this bullet, which tears through everything it hits, didn't produce an exit wound. You got to do better than that. I'm sorry. It's a miracle. Now I have to believe in miracles. So now what you're saying is you have to believe in miracles to believe what they're saying.
Well, you know who that's for.
Well,
you know, I mean, they're
but
trying.
According to this guy,
they're trying
what the
a lot
said.
of. Yeah, they're trying a lot of different things. They're trying a lot of different things to appeal to a certain portion of their base. It's going to say, "Did you hear that bullet didn't even go through? Even the surgeon said it was a miracle. Praise Jesus."
Yeah.
Now that's not everyone in that coalition. That is a very, very large and arguably most active part of that coalition. And, this is part of why some people, including myself, have a lot of skepticism of organized religion, because it's always been used as a means of control by the unscrupulous. Like whatever your personal experience or belief of religion is, you can set that aside as a separate question. The way that these institutions and concepts can be manipulated by people in power, I think that's something that everyone can agree on, whatever your personal religious beliefs are. And that's a very good example of it. They're trying to appeal to people's belief in miracles. And, wow, because he was a Christian, that's why that happened.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we're going to go on to the next segment in just a moment, but we have a dissident sponsor. He's the same sponsor, not a different sponsor, but he's got a new project. So this is a bard and a guitar, and we've promoted a bard and a guitar's album, Dogmatics, on the show for a while, but they've got a new album out, It's a follow-up to Dogmatic's Love Songs to My Favorite Politicians is a musical comedy album inspired by the 2024 election. It features Red versus Blue, a pop-punk jam that explores the two parties, the people who look to them for answers, the commentators who cheerlead for them, and the ones who are caught in the middle. Yeshua, a pop song that argues that Jesus was possibly a commie libertarian. One Asshole, Two Cheeks is a romantic ballad, a love letter to Trump and Obama. Natural Born Killers, a jazzy track about baby killers. Well, not babies that kill, but killers of babies. Econ 101, a hip-hop verse about economics and more. Find Love Songs to My Favorite Politicians by a Bard and a Guitar on most streaming services or YouTube if you're interested. Link to all of the socials, including the Spotify and the Apple Music, can be found at this nifty little link here, dodissidents.com/Bard. There you go. New album from a Bard and a Guitar, folks, so please do go and check that out. Brad Gilbert says corporations paid woke to bully libs, now fascist to conservatives. Yeah, exactly. Why is my throat all fucked up tonight? I don't know. Brad Gilbert says Kirk's service was membership drive for GOP and church. Yeah, the funeral is today, and yeah, of course. Ted Cruz isn't stupid, just a dirtbag. Thank you. Everett McLemore, thanks for the $4.99 super sticker. Appreciate that. Okay, Chris Bedford says, hello, my favorite Jewish troublemaking duo. Please book Butch Ware for California governor's candidate for interview. Green Party, Medicare for All, anti-Zionist. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Okay, let's take a look here. Got some more Rumble rants down here. Vanticus Prime says, everything's a scam, everything's a lie, everything's hypocrisy, and so I don't comply. Thank you very much. Killer Hinton says, pretty sure I just broke my nose while adjusting a tension rod in my closet. So yeah, happy birthday to me. Mixing myself a bloody martini, literally. Oh, be careful. Be careful. Those tension rods can be a bitch, Killer Hinton. Let's see. Mark Pugliese, stop clock, Ted Cruz, still a giant bag of douche. Thank you, Mark Pugliese. Appreciate that. All right, we will move right on along here. Okay. So, we have seen a lot of quote-unquote evidence come from the FBI in the wake of the killing of Charlie Kirk. So much of it generating so much pushback that finally Kash Patel issues a statement here. As the director of the FBI, I am committed to ensuring the investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination is thorough and exhaustive, pursuing every lead to its conclusion. The full weight of America's law enforcement agencies are actively following the evidence that has emerged, but our efforts extend beyond initial findings. We are examining every facet of this assassination. Okay, go on. We are meticulously investigating theories and questions, including the location from where the shot was taken, the possibility of accomplices, the text message confession. Well, you produced the text message confession and then vouch for it. So, all right. And related conversations, Discord chats, the angle of the shot and bullet impact, how the weapon was transported, hand gestures observed as potential signals near Charlie at the time of his assassination, and visitors to the alleged shooter's residence in the hours and days leading up to September 10th, 2025. It is kind of interesting that he's validating the speculation about the hand gestures, because that's the kind of thing that I certainly thought was strange enough to play and mention and analyze a bit, and so did a lot of people online. But, I've been indulging these kinds of theories long enough. Usually these just get dismissed out of hand. Oh, you're crazy. Those weren't hand gestures. You have no evidence, whatever. Yeah. No, he's actually saying, no, we'll actually look into that. Now, whether he will look into it or not is a different question. But the fact that he's coming out and saying that does validate that speculation. And I think cause it to circulate amongst the public. Some details are known today, while others are still being pursued to ensure every possibility is considered. Our primary focus is to complete this investigation and deliver justice. To protect the integrity of the investigation and subsequent prosecution, we cannot release every piece of information we have to the public right now. We will ensure every question is addressed at the appropriate moment. Regarding specific details, such as questions about the plane that allegedly turned off its transponder after departing from an airport near the assassination site, we can share updates when answers are confirmed. After interviews with the pilot and consultation with the FAA, we determined the transponder was not turned off. Incomplete flight data in rural areas caused the apparent gap. All right, we'll wait to see what they produce on that. Again, the fact that he's addressing that and validating that, I think, is kind of remarkable. It just shows you how they are really struggling to maintain control of the narrative of all of this. The entire FBI mourns the loss of Charlie Kirk. We will not rest until justice is served, and our investigation into this assassination will continue until every question is answered. Okay, so Candace Owens, excuse me, quote tweets this: "You guys didn't even try with the text messages. We deserve an apology for that one." Yeah, they showed us the text messages, which we did a whole segment on these text messages on the Jimmy Dore show. This was, fairly obvious to a lot of people that this resembled a reproduction of what a constructed text chain would be if you wanted to go as far out of your way as possible to produce a timeline of the event. This guy supposedly sent these text messages while he's trying to get away. This is between him, Tyler Robinson, and his lover. But hey, don't take my word for it. Take Steve Bannon's word. He does not buy the authenticity of these text messages. He says it actually reads like a bad script.
Presented in Utah, I'm not buying all of it. I'm particularly not buying those text messages. It just seems too stilted, too much like a script. Actually, a bad script.
Okay, so there's Steve Bannon telling you the text messages seems like a bad script, and he's not buying it. Then, of course, you had this, the note that was but wasn't. Here's Kash Patel explaining that there was a note that was destroyed, but that through his forensic analysis and aggressive interview posture, he was able to determine what this now non-existent note said.
We believe what did exist, and we have evidence to show what was in that note, which is, and I'm going to summarize, basically saying, the suspect wrote a note saying, "I have the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." That note was written before the shooting. Evidence of its existence, we now have learned, existed before the shooting, was in the location in the suspect and partner's home. But we have since learned that the note, even though it has been destroyed, we have found forensic evidence of the note, and we have confirmed what that note says because of our aggressive interview posture at the FBI.
Okay, wow. Yeah. Patriot Princess says, so what you're saying is you're now aware the American people are much smarter than you thought they were, so you're going to work harder to concoct a false narrative they might actually believe. Yeah.
Yes.
Trumpzilla says, your timeline is so incompetently wrong that we are doubting your competence and slowly becoming more and more tinfoil hat on whether there is deep state fuckery going on. Why was the director of the Utah FBI field office let go 2 weeks before Charlie arrived at UVU? I don't believe in the amount of coincidences that seems to be present in all of this. Do better. And here is Thomas Massey, tangentially related. See, this is the problem. This is the problem that Kash Patel has. And it's the same problem Pam Bondi has, the same problem this entire administration has. They've already lost so much trust going into this, largely because of the Epstein files. Right? Like, this is all happening after their credibility has already been destroyed. Most crucially, I would argue, amongst a lot of their hardcore base. So here's Thomas Massey just last week. In today's hearing, I told FBI Director Patel that we know FBI still has unreleased documents which contain 20 names of rich and politically connected men who Epstein trafficked girls and young women to. FBI needs to release the Epstein files and investigate these men. Don't forget, Kash Patel's line now is that Epstein basically had all these girls for himself and didn't traffic them to anybody, nor did Maxwell.
That's what he's going with.
Yep.
He's recognized for 5 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when Senator Kennedy asked you, you've seen most of the files, who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself? You replied, according to the transcript, There is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. You also said somewhere in the hearing and here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007, and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors such as Virginia Roberts Ufree, may she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does.
Okay, so once again, this is a big part of the problem that they're having, which is you're coming into this with your credibility in shambles, and that is largely why. So all of this takes place in a context where your base already knows you're full of shit, and now you try and convince them that what seems like a ChatGPT generated text exchange is a real text exchange. Your line is basically, trust me, bro, on this note that doesn't exist but did exist, and we were able to determine what it said when it did exist through our aggressive interview posture, whatever the hell you're talking about. You got these guys giving hand signals, you got plane transponders, you got all of these details, and you've got not even close to a satisfactory explanation on any of them. And so now it's gotten to a point where he has to come out and he has to say, hey, we're going to start looking into things that 99 times out of 100, as someone who's indulged these conspiracy theories a lot in my life, 99 times out of 100, they just get shrugged off by the people in power. Yeah, people are going to say what they say online, but we're following the facts of the case, and you just give a generic thing. For him to actually point to specific claims that people are making and specific questions that people have and say we're looking into that means I think they know that the public is not buying this, and the public is not buying their story, which of course we knew they were going to work very, very hard to try and sell, which is that this was a lone wolf leftist. And like I said, I say this every time, I know I'm a broken record, but I'm open to the truth no matter what it is. I'd condemn the shooting no matter who did it and for what reason. That's not what this is about. This is about the vast majority of people paying attention to this smell bullshit. It's obvious. And he wouldn't have said what he said had he not known that.
I mean, I think we can narrow down a lot of what he's listing with Epstein, magician. It's 50-50. It's Penn or it's Teller.
Right. Yeah,
right. It's one rock star, Gene Simmons. I mean, do you really need to look any further than that? Also, I think you missed this in your research. This was a particularly fiery part of that hearing.
Congressman, if you'll stop grandstanding, I'll explain where this all goes. I understand that next week I will be working at Jersey Mike's. I'll ask them to hire me, and they'll tell me I have to apply like everyone else. I'll apply to every franchise in the state, hoping that one manager will be too lazy to bother Googling me. I'll start working, and that's where the real trouble begins. Because yes, I will screw up that job too. Someone will say, I want tomatoes, and I won't be able to find the tomatoes. I'll grab slices of salami and claim those are the tomatoes. They'll say, I can see exactly what you're doing. You're not fooling anyone. That's when I start applying to Quiznos.
That's, I think that's a pretty good prediction of Kash Patel's future. Yeah, it's kind of fascinating because as we have observed, hey man, give the MAGA movement its due. a lot of them, most of them follow Gunther Eagleman, will just bend their heads and accept whatever. A lot of them won't. And you didn't see that with the libs. They said cheap fakes. The libs said cheap fakes. You really saw no dissent from that quarter. They're having a hard time, man, because they have a much more unruly base, and this is why. Okay, well, you stole the Democrats' working class base, and they stole your old upper middle class and upper class base. Well, the difference between those two groups is one has something to lose by challenging establishment narratives, and the other doesn't. So the other is much more inclined to fight and argue with power than these bourgeois suburbanites who are afraid, hey, man, if their boss sees a tweet they don't like, they're going to get fired. They're going to lose their job. They walk around, forget about it, man. You walk around, you have that kind of middle management job, you have a fucking Bernie Sanders shirt that's going to be too much for those people.
Right.
So they are very incentivized to color inside the lines. You wanted a working class base that's living on the edge, that's living paycheck to paycheck. They're not just going to go along with this shit. Some of them will. Like, some of them so deeply need to feel like they're being empowered by just going along with whatever Gunther Eagleman tells them. They'll go along with it. A lot of them won't, man. A lot of them won't. And that's why they're struggling now. That's why they have to come up with another explanation. I mean, you could see it's just like desperate scrambling to try to get everyone back inside the fence, but it's not working. And I think it's an open question. Like, if they're not even entirely able to sell the Jimmy Kimmel thing, is this all going to fall apart? Like, is it all going to collapse under its own weight?
Well, that's what
Like,
Candace Owens said in the last segment. I read you that tweet about, people thought they were going to be able to grassy knoll this, and maybe not. Maybe not.
Right.
What the fuck are those guys standing behind them? I mean, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but what the fuck are they doing giving these hand signals seconds before the shot, literally seconds before the shot is fired? They're giving these signals like a third base coach.
Right. You're talking about, and we got emails about that. We got email. Oh, yeah, well, if you would bring me on the show. Okay. Yeah, we're going to bring you on the show. There's nothing there. Okay. All right. Random person who emailed us. Yeah. When do you want to come on? They have a base that does not believe in these institutions and that frankly has been reared on conspiracy theories. And I don't use that in a pejorative way. A lot of these conspiracies are true. Like possibly 9/11. Some people say that, right? If there's any group of people that you're not going to be able to sell the idea that this guy had adamantium neck bones, it's that crowd. You cannot sell that to this group of people. They are used to assuming that power is lying to them. And you manipulated that to point to the other guys and say, we're going to come in and clean it up. Okay. But now you've got this very restive, skeptical by nature base that you're trying to sell a lot of bullshit about what is clearly some kind of a conspiracy. And too many of them are not going to buy it for you to sell this to them.
Yeah. At this point, and Kash Patel mentioned the possibility of accomplices in that tweet. And I think the mentioning of accomplices is very significant because I think what is becoming, I won't say nearly unanimous, but I think what is catching on as a mainstream opinion about this is not necessarily that Tyler Robinson didn't do it, but that he was not the only one involved. Like, most people think Lee Harvey Oswald had something to do with the JFK assassination, but that he was not the only one, and they pinned the whole thing on him and set him up. Right. And I think that could be, I think that likely is a similar dynamic here. Not that he had nothing to do with it, but that he wasn't the only one, and that the more you learn, the more you're going to perhaps find out about what this was really about. And it's very, very scary, and it's very, very dark, and it's being, not only is it being used to pursue some very dark ends, the event itself is a very, very dark event that has a real chilling effect on speech in the country. So this whole thing is an attack on the civil society coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
And as of now, there is no proof of exactly where it's coming from. That's what makes this all the more terrifying, I believe.
Yeah, I have to look into this more. I've seen some chatter about the school that he went to and left having a big CIA program, a big program that's run by the CIA there.
Oh, see, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I believe, especially after reading Chaos,
MK
I
Ultra,
talked
yeah, of
about
course.
this on Katie's. I believe the Butler shooting. I think they're MK Ultraing these kids
It
and
could be.
using them as patsies.
That could absolutely be. So we will have to stay tuned. But now Kash Patel gives us a little preview that they may start to take these things more seriously, or at least pretend to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this tweet could be right, which is that, they realize the people aren't stupid enough to fall for this, so we better come up with something else. Perhaps they're just biding their time. We will see. All right, Josh Daniel says, have you watched the recent Elephant Graveyard? I have not. I don't even know what that is. That's how.
That's the guy who did that Rogan thing.
That's how uncool I am. Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Let's see. Excuse me. I can confirm weird strikes. I was suspended for saying A-bomb country starting with I. Okay, so yeah, if you have a channel, because in order to create an account with YouTube, you have to technically have a channel, right? Most people just don't add anything to their channels. But if you have a channel, I guess you can be struck. So maybe they
Right,
did that.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, like if you create a YouTube account, it means you technically can upload a video to your channel. And yeah, they can whack you for like comments and stuff too. It's not just videos. Andy Gardner just watched Star Trek TOS Return of the Archons last night. The Langer episode. My father didn't understand why I cheered. R.I.P. to the high roller. Brad Gilbert says, so he has the bullet. Ballistics equals Epstein files. Thank you, Brad Gilbert. Appreciate that. Okay, let's see. What do we got here? Lots of Rumble rants coming in here. What do you call the person who celebrates the creation of a weapon, the second target? Interesting point, Vianticus Prime. Sending love out to all my comrade dissidents, says Vito P for $50. Let's have a cowbell for Vito. Stay strong. Cancer sucks. You guys rock. Hey, what was the sound drop you wanted again, Vito? I forget what it was. You asked for a sound. It was double. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. Yeah, we got to get that for you for next time. We owe you one.
That's easy
We owe you
enough.
one. That's easy enough. Yes. All right. Let's see. Vianticus Prime, the Institute for Justice, is the new ACLU. They've been doing really good work. Appreciate that. Okay. Funny, the words civil society that J.D. Vance said are also used by the EU whenever they censor speech from the populist right. We really are being played by both sides.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, I think the politicians are incidental to this, as we'll get to when we get into the Max clip, which is pretty amazing stuff, I think. Vianticus Prime, it's interesting to see how those will really say something like, those who don't understand history are doomed to repeat it, suddenly are surprised by current events. Exactly. Yes, bingo. Thank you, Vianticus Prime. I agree with that 100%. Okay. Yes, I heard about this, Soccer Papa. 4 Lebanese American citizens were martyred today via drone strike in Israel. Yes, 3 kids of the Charara family, father, Shadi, and children, 2 or 3 kids under 5, mom in ICU. Yeah, horrible. I saw that come across my feed just before we went on. Yeah, really, really atrocious stuff, obviously. Okay. Let's see. Here's a joke you can't tell. What do you have when you get a Catholic priest, a Sunni, Shia, Muslim, and a Zionist Jew? Shag, marry, kill, children's edition. Thank you, Vianticus Prime. Appreciate that. Okay. Why don't we move right on along here? We got a couple of New York stories for you guys. I figure we'll lighten the mood a little bit after those 2 more morbid pieces. Rabbi Shmuley has made an endorsement, a surprise endorsement in the New York City race.
Yes, Rabbi Shmuley is not coming out for who you would expect. Here's Rabbi Shmuley's X account. I'm officially endorsing as mayor of New York is my close friend, but only a Mamdani victory will finally wake up New York to the rot and Jew hatred that has taken over the new Rome. I think he meant to say Cuomo is my good friend.
I'm going to do something utterly unexpected on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. I am officially endorsing Zohran Mamdani to become mayor of New York City. I know you're going to be surprised, but I'm not even kidding. Since he's very likely to win, given that he has the Democratic line and this is a Democratic city, even though I really happen to love Andrew Cuomo and he's a very good friend. But since Mamdani's likely to win, I'm officially endorsing him. Not to go with the winner, but the exact opposite. I think Mamdani's victory is finally going to alert the American people in general, and the residents of New York City in particular, to the absolute rot and corruption in the new Rome, the world's greatest city. Barriers like this are everywhere. They're gross. This is how they're. I mean, look at this. This is what New York City is. This is a barren street right near. You can go by bicycle. No cars can come here. First and foremost, the rot of the city is.
He's trying to cut in on Cash Jordan's act.
Yeah.
Okay. I live in New York City. It is not full of concrete barriers. You can find them in certain very specific places, like predictably near the site of 9/11. You can find them around Wall Street. They're not common.
Shocking. Mamdani's not going to fix any of it. He's a socialist. He's going to give all the money away to people who will try to get benefits that they may not deserve. The needy deserve things, but he hates billionaires, he hates socialists, he hates capitalists. So the first thing in the city is going to go down the toilet.
Now that's just a fascinating formulation. Like, he just kind of encapsulated the whole anti-woke Zionist grift right there. You see, he's against billionaires. Well, that's terrible. He wants to give stuff to people who don't need it. You mean like billionaires? Billionaires don't need stuff. You want to give more tax cuts to billionaires, but you don't actually want to give anything to people who actually need it because, in your estimation, who needs free buses? What? You can pay for it. So what if you have to do without to pay for the bus to go to work? Billionaires need their billions.
We're going to wake up to how politicians like him who promise everything really are nothing. Secondly, the Jews of this city can't wear yarmulkes. I'm wearing this because it matches my outfit. Hey, what do you think, guys? My mother is...
Again, he's cutting in on Cash Jordan's action by just lying for the benefit of people who don't live here. The idea that Jews don't walk around New York City in yarmulkes, it's one step away from being as absurd as Jews can't walk around Jerusalem with yarmulkes. There are more Jews in New York than anywhere outside of Israel. The idea that people don't wear yarmulkes, and go to the Diamond District. Okay, you'll see plenty of yarmulkes.
Favorite color is turquoise blue, so when I wear turquoise blue, I'm reminded of her. But there's no yarmulkes, not in Times Square. Jews are afraid. 4 years of Mamdani, the city will survive. And the people will wake up to how New York City, with 2.5 million Jews, more Jews than any city in the history of the world, that they're not protected. We're going to have a guy who's openly supports terrorism, believes in globalizing the Intifada, which is a call for the murder of all Jews. The Intifada is just about...
Okay, he literally, last week, when he got asked this question by Al Sharpton, really pissed off a lot of people by going completely over to the Zionist perspective on this, as the term Intifada is triggering, or, they hear it a different way, and said he would discourage use of the term. And as he has repeatedly pointed out, he's never used the term himself.
Yeah, and it does not mean kill all Jews.
It does not. It
means struggle. It does not even imply violence.
Right.
Slaughtering Jews and any infidel or Christians or...
Does not mean any...
someone who...
Yes, very polished, as many have pointed out, scion of the upper class. Zohran Mamdani is looking to launch an anti-Christian jihad the moment he gets into office. That's exactly what he's going to do.
Who hates the police, condemn the police. Without the police, I'd be a dead man right now. I'm a marked man by all the Islamists, the white supremacists, all the anti-Semites. A Mamdani victory will finally alert us to how bad things are in America. Now, will New York pay a price for 4 years? It'll pay a terrible price. But it has weathered worse, and it will survive.
New York has the highest credit card debt in the country. And I believe it is the city with the highest levels of wealth inequality. So what price is it paying as a result of your buddies like Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams? It's already paying a price. You see, for normal people who are not billionaires, like the people you hang out with, who are compromised by the country that you fanatically support, for normal people, they've already faced consequences. That's why this guy's winning. That's why he's winning, because of what the people you endorse have done to the lives of normal working people. That's why they fucking had it and are willing to take a flyer on a 33-year-old who's never had any experience beyond being an assemblyman.
But if it takes the Mamdani victory, which it probably does, to tell us that socialist, anti-Semitic, Israel-hating charlatans, because he's not from a socialist family, he went to the most expensive private schools, his parents are Columbia, and his mother got tons of money from Qatar, to do documentaries. If that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. And that's what will happen. So,
yeah, you know who else gave money to Qatar? Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, Netanyahu.
Gave money to Qatar to pass on to who? To Hamas.
Yes.
Hamas. Netanyahu funded Hamas through Qatar. All of a sudden, you don't like Qatar. It's funny.
Rabbi Shmuley is officially endorsing Mamdani. Now, since I control New York, I'm Jewish. Candace Owens says I control the whole world. Since I murder whoever I want, and since I control all the banks, and since I control all the media, this endorsement, no one else has a chance. This is Rabbi Shmuley, who Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, all identify, not Jews in general, but me as controlling the world. Zoran, peace, brother. I love you, brother. Run the city into the ground. Show us how bad you can make it. Zoran, I challenge you to try your best to ruin this place, which is what your objective is, so the rest of us who are sheep and allow our politicians to control us, and the Jews who don't fight back, and all the other sheep can finally be alerted to the rot. The rot. This is New York City. The rot that is now taken over the world's capital of finance, etc., and especially in the week of UNGA. Mamdani is going to try to arrest Netanyahu. I want people to see this hater in action. So Zohar Mamdani for mayor, and I'm not electing him. I am Rabbi Shmuley. I'm a Jew. I control the world. I'm a freaking appointing him. Go Zoran, baby. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
There you go. Mamdani should tweet that out.
Thus saith the one-man anti-Semitism bomb. Rabbi Shmuley does more to spread anti-Semitism than 1 million chapters of Stormfront could possibly do. First of all, I mean, obviously he's lying about the state of New York City, but it's very revealing the kinds of rhetorical tactics that he's using here. People are going to see how bad it is. They see how bad it is. Why do you think this unknown guy from nowhere is burying these well-established politicians? Because things suck. Look at our friend Jose, man. As part of his campaign, we did a documentary showing how he first really got into politics because the conditions in the apartment he was living in with his mother were so bad, and he couldn't get any help from the politicians. He went back to that building. Things are worse. You got all these people in the public housing living with black mold, getting sick, conditions that have gone on for years. Things are already bad. If you're hanging out with the Eggman Russell Brand and Lord of the Manor RFK, you might not be aware what things are like for normal people. If things were good for normal people, whatever you think of Zoran, good or bad, a guy like that would not be burying the competition. a guy who came out of nowhere, who has views that some people might find controversial. People tend to fear taking a chance on new ideas, right? That's the advantage that establishment people have. People are afraid to try something different. You have to make them pretty desperate before they'll try something different. And you have to make them really desperate when an overwhelming number of them in this most neoliberal of cities is willing to elect this guy and just take a chance on him. Those are people who have nothing to lose, and people like you and your fucking friends made people feel that way with the kinds of policies that you'd like to see continue. Now, for Rabbi Shmuley to come out and present himself like some kind of bastion of morality, or as if he represents the Jewish people, look, of the dark stereotypes about Jews, he hits on some tropes there about banks and the media. There's a very old trope that Jews are pimps and pornographers. It's a very old trope. Back 100 years ago, you had a very popular magazine in America, one that still exists. I think it might have been Collier's, did a whole series about how there was a worldwide network of what they called kaftans, bearded Jews who were selling women into white slavery. Now, Shmuley has not gone so far as to go into the pornography business, but when there's this perception out there of Jews as perverted, maybe don't make a video like this with your daughter.
Center of Jerusalem, kosher sex store.
That's his daughter. That's his daughter.
Made in Israel.
Tell us about the oils, because this is the first product that we've labeled with kosher sex.
Our
and
first
it's made
kosher
in
sex
Israel.
product, so special. No, so these are actually hemp seed infused. So there's one for men and one for women, but these are like very elevating, arousing lubricants. But they do take, and one's a delay spray for men, but they do take like 5-10 minutes to be absorbed. But that's the whole point, that couples, they have like 5-10 minutes to not just rush into things and just enjoy each other and be playful and take their time.
I love that. I love good things come to those who wait, right?
Yes, exactly. Especially when it comes to intimacy, that's for sure. But made in Israel, and we're doing a special discount code. Yes. With a coach, you get 10% off with a coach.
Hang on, wait, hold on. This is fucking us. Okay, we have our own due dissidence discount code for this, so use ours, not theirs.
Yeah, don't use theirs.
Don't use theirs. Okay, we have our own. We'll give you. Yeah, we're working out the final details of the sponsorship, but this is kind of stepping on our toes here.
It's D.D. Keaton's cock ring.
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Discount, right? Kosher sex at checkout, and then there's free shipping within the U.S., but not in Israel. Sorry, you can get them. You can go to the shop and get them here. But
wait, what's the discount code again? My daughter has to remember. You got to say something 3 times for the person to remember.
Kosher sex.
What is it? With a space?
Sex. No, just kosher sex.
Okay. Again, we have ours coming out. Just be patient, folks. Be patient.
Yeah, for normal people, that is some really creepy, off-putting shit. Can you imagine if he didn't have his fucking head all the way up Donald Trump's ass? What if that guy were a Democrat? Fucking Republicans would be calling for an investigation of this guy. It is just incredible what he's able to get away with. You say he's gonna stand up there and say, yeah, no, people think we control the world. Well, you know why? Because you're able to go and make a fucking perverted video with your daughter and get invited into the halls of power. So people go, why can this guy do this? Now, as a Jewish person, I can tell you, Rabbi Shmuley, I see a guy like Rabbi Shmuley, that you want to talk about something that is damaging to the image of Jewish people, something that reinforces every negative stereotype that's out there about Jewish people. It's a guy like Rabbi Shmuley. You have to wonder if he's an op. Is he elevated to spread anti-Semitism? Because it is incredible that this guy is able to get into the places he's able to get into when he makes videos like that.
Yeah, and as for Mamdani, yeah, you're right, and this was a big problem of this was Bernie's big problem, is that I think he, among others, but he was running at a time where the PMC sort of progressive-oriented liberals just were not feeling as put out by the system as they are now, right? It takes that kind of tipping point for a lot of like Warren-oriented progressives to be like, all right, you know what? I guess I got nothing else to lose. I guess we'll take a flyer on this. And that's really what is driving it. And in a place like New York, which has just become so unequal, yeah, everybody's feeling that squeeze. There are very, very few people who live in New York City who feel secure in their situation. And, yeah, this is now their new tactic. Because, and you even saw some of this after Mamdani won the primary. It was, all right, just let him win and people will learn their lesson. I think the reason why the real power players don't want him to win is because they know he's not a radical. And they know that he's only going to put in place some modest but fairly popular reforms like rent control, like a few city-run grocery stores here. There's a public-private grocery store up here in the capital region. It's not entirely government owned, but it uses a lot of government grants combined with like private donations from philanthropists and the like. That store is extremely popular. You go on their Google reviews like 4.5 stars because you're getting good food for cheaper. It's pretty simple. It's not that simple and it's not that radical. And I think a lot of people know that, and they're afraid that if Mamdani comes in and he's not Che Guevara, but he puts in place a few modest reforms here or there that people like, that will shift the Overton window, which begets a further shift to the Overton window, which begets a further shift. And that's the cycle that they try to nip in the bud. And they weren't able to do it this time because the rich of New York have just been overplaying their hand for decade after decade after decade. They just will not stop squeezing workers out of that city. And this is the price that they're going to have to pay. And, yeah, of course he's going to fearmonger. Well, you'll learn your lesson. No, I don't think they will learn their lesson. I think if I had to guess, I think he's going to win. I think he's going to disappoint in a lot of ways. But I also think he's going to give working people enough where they feel like, you know what, it was better than Netanyahu's lawyer. And I think that's what these people really fear. Is people getting a taste of something better.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but a taste.
Well, that's it. Aristocrats never want the serfs to get any taste of anything better, because what can that lead to? Well, you give them an inch, they're going to want a yard, right? So you got to keep them. You got to keep them down. I agree with you. A lot of the ideas that supposedly are so crazy, they're really pretty milquetoast at the end of the day, and they don't want. And this is the story of elites forever. They always resist simple reforms until they're being marched to a certain contraption in France. They never want to. They never want to do it the easy way. As Carr says, you can do it the easy way or the hard way. They had a very good piece on Breaking Points about the free buses. Buses are 85% paid with taxes. Do you know that? 85%. It's only 15% that comes from fares anyway.
Right.
The buses will be faster without the fare because you don't have to collect the fares.
Right. Of course.
And they looked at part of why people don't take buses, and a lot of it would be eliminated by just making the buses more efficient.
Of course.
And faster. You'd also cut down on assaults on drivers because those are usually centered on fares.
Right.
Yeah, no, the things that he's talking about are really not pie in the sky, especially freezing the rent. I keep saying this. That is something that is very much in the power of the mayor. De Blasio did it twice. 2 years in a row, there were no rent increases in New York City. That is something that can definitely be done. So for normal fucking people who are not like the criminals that Shmuley hangs out with, who have millions and billions of dollars, that's meaningful, a rent freeze. So yeah, that's why he's winning. If you didn't want people to get this desperate, well, you should have done some of these things yourselves, elites.
Exactly. All right. We're going to take some Rumble rants, and then we'll do the scroll in a minute, Jake. Goo81, a story came out of Israeli media that Israeli-Palestinian Christian citizen who supported IDF moved into a Jewish-only neighborhood, property being vandalized and stone throwing at him and family. Wow. Not surprising. Thank you, Goo81. Russell, check out Fig Tree on YouTube. Fig Tree.
Fig Tree?
Yeah, that is a recommendation from Mark Pugliese. Ham Hawk, general strike. That's the most violent thing I could think to say. We definitely need to organize towards a general strike. No doubt about that. Charlie Kirk takeout was a false flag to attempt an Israeli coup of the government via Trump because a year when Dems take control and release Epstein file, it would dismantle their control of government and media. Xander Varkov says, "Why am I persecuted?" Has to go on the soundboard. Yeah, I knew. So it wasn't Shakespeare. That was wrong because I kept searching Shakespeare and it wasn't. It was The Crucible. Mark Pugliese, Building 7 felt sorry for its friends. Jimmy Dore. Yes, thank you, Mark Pugliese. Appreciate that. Soccer Papa, it's called the 30-06, not 30-06. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that said before. But then how do you say 308? Is it the point 308? It's not 308, right? It's just the point 308. Got to take you to the range to put some hair on your chest. Thank you, Soccer Papa. Appreciate that. Get Up King says, I saw an interesting video that argued it was a shape charge that sent Charlie's magnetic microphone clasp into his neck. The microphone was under his shirt. The clasp in the neck was just a bonus. You know, I saw a Twitter thread that explored that. I did not have time to really look into it, but I will, because somebody who I find generally reputable said, this sounds crazy when you read it, but the more you get into the thread, the less crazy it sounds. So I will look into that as well. Thank you, Get Up King. Appreciate that. Let's see. Yeah, that one video was sketchy. It shows two dudes messing around. The area was shot, and then one guy picks up the chair, grabs the camera, and then takes the SD out and leaves. Did y'all see that? I did, and I heard something about the SD card, and then I heard something else about the SD card that seemed to put that suspicion to rest. I don't remember exactly what I read about the SD card, so I'll have to maybe revisit that. But thank you for that. Did you see the video of those guys messing around with the chair and camera and taking the SD card? Okay, so that was essentially the same question. Yeah, I'm going to have to look into it more. I just can't really speak to it because I just didn't get enough information out of it. Okay, everyone's paying attention to 4 letters when it comes to Charlie Kirk when they should be paying attention to 3, says Vianticus Prime. Genitalis, FBI aggressive interview posture is just when you spin the chair around backwards and rest your arms on the back. They do it on Law & Order all the time. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that. All right, Jake, can we please go to our scroll here? So, folks, if you like what we do here and you want to help us do more, please consider becoming a member. DoDissidents.com/Patreon, /Substack, or /Locals, if it helps your eyes. If that font is a little small here, I will put the Patreon link right here. Where is the Patreon link? There it is. Patreon.com/DoDissidents. Membership starts at just $5 a month. It gets you all kinds of perks, including your name up in lights here on the show scroll, and end credit in our upcoming documentary on the Uhuru movement. You also get a film club live stream every month. We do a movie night film club presentation. Our next one will be on Tuesday night. We'll announce the film on Tuesday's afternoon show, but Tuesday night at 8 p.m. will be the next film club. You get 2 this month because our film schedule got messed around in St. Louis last month. We had to forego the film club last month, so you will get 2 before the end of this month. You also get 1 extended show per month. So once a month, what we do is we do a post game where we do extra bonus segments exclusively for members at the end of a live stream, plus a call-in Q&A. You also get call-in access to every Q&A every Sunday night after the main show, which happens over on Rumble. Tonight is Sunday, which means, of course, we will be going over to the Q&A or going over to Rumble for the Q&A, I should say, after the show this evening. You also get one feature that everybody likes is a replay of every live stream ad-free emailed to you the day after the show. So if you miss a show or you join in progress and you don't want to watch it back with ad interruptions, you get an ad-free version of every live stream sent to your inbox the day after it airs live. All that for just $5 a month. What a deal, if I say so myself. And you come with the good karma of supporting independent media and keeping the show afloat. Our members are the backbone of the project. Could not do it without you. So if you can support us, patreon.com/DoDissidents is where to go. Thank you all very much. All right, what do we got over here? Michael Mike, the Russian bot, says cowbell for Landrew. Happy birthday, KH. Who's KH? Is Katie Halper KH?
Katie Halper?
Is it her birthday?
Is it her birthday?
Today? Happy birthday, Katie, if it is. Michael Mike, the Russian bot, says, by the way, I wasn't allowed by the YouTube to spell out L's and KH's names in previous super chats. Really? That's strange. Thank you, Michael Mike. Who knows?
The YouTube
you probably draw more
algorithm
heat when you call yourself a Russian bot. That might make you more
probably
prone to censorship.
Yeah, the YouTube censorship is set at like 11.
Yeah. So who knows? Alex Dosleeb says, Russ, pro tip, celebrate 666 at half tempo, less neck strain, and you can look more intense. I met the hood of a truck 30 years ago. Still hurts. Ooh, that does sound like it hurts.
I haven't met the hood of a truck, so I'm all right.
It
would just sound weird at half tempo.
It would.
Six.
Yeah, that would be kind of weird.
Not going to work.
AOB says miracle bullet theory. There you are. Let's see. Yes, some original reporting claimed that the bullet struck first the chest, then ricocheted into the neck. Could this explain the lack of exit wound? Possible. Not necessarily likely.
That doesn't sound like that's what the surgeon said.
Right. The surgeon just said it was a miracle.
Yeah, he didn't say
the
that.
surgeon would say it ricocheted. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. During elections, we only make selections without ever being the deciders ourselves. It's time for direct democracy. Thank you, Daniel Sophia. Appreciate that. Kash Patel says Christian Suozzo makes me think of Aziz Ansari if you were a meth addict. Thank you. That's funny. I like this one too. Alex Duslead. Kash Patel cries every night. I could have been interviewing J.K. Rowling on my podcast. This FBI stuff is tough. That's right. Yes, it is. Justin Watson, just for Russ saying bourgeois. Great show, guys. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Sending blessings and appreciation from London, UK. Thank you, Miriam.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. When will you start doing a U.S. tour of live shows? A tour? Wow, that's ambitious.
We would need a manager.
We need a manager. Samira says, keep up the great work. Thank you for your advocacy for Palestine and all the countries of that satanic state. Thank you, Samira. Appreciate that very much. I meant to say thank you for Yes, I understand what you mean here. Thank you for advocating for Palestine and all the countries victims of that satanic state. Yes, gotcha. Thank you very much for that. Okay, why don't we move right on along here? Our second New York story of a New York doubleheader, one that is near and dear to Russell's heart. I have no idea what this story even is.
Okay, this has been a long time coming. Mayor calls for ban on horse-drawn carriages after deaths of rider and lady. So this is Eric Adams tweeted this out. New Yorkers, here's what I want you to know about the announcement we made today calling on the New York City Council to ban horse-drawn carriages in Central Park.
Big news, huge news, something that many have advocated for a long time. We are announcing here in Central Park that we have started taking the steps to ban the horse carriage industry in the city of New York. We think it's important and it's the humane thing to do. We saw so many incidents where horses were running free, horses died on the street. We're better than that as a city. But we want to be fair to the drivers and using several ways of incentivizing them moving away from the horse carriage industry. But today, we're starting the process with an executive order. The next step is the city council. They need a message of necessity, and they need to get this bill to the floor. They already have 20 sponsors, so there's no reason we can finally end the horse carriage industry in the city.
All right, so if you're wondering why we're covering this story, if you're newer to the channel, people who have been around for a while probably know. Well, that is yours truly. Back in my horse and carriage driving days, I drove a horse and carriage in 3 cities, Chicago, New York, and San Francisco, principally in New York. Haven't done it in a very long time. But this was always an ongoing, pending threat back then. Several mayors kind of blocked this. Obviously, Giuliani was against getting rid of the carriages. Bloomberg was against getting rid of the carriages. So there was never really enough momentum to get them banned, but there's been a pretty concerted effort to get them banned for a long time. Mary Tyler Moore campaigned to get them banned. Alec Baldwin campaigned to get them banned. So here's a little bit about why it looks like this time it's actually going to happen. Horse-drawn carriages have been a fixture of Central Park since its opening in the 1850s. But in recent years, the industry has come under increasing scrutiny from advocates, elected officials, and even the Central Park Conservancy, which broke its neutrality this summer to call for a ban. The Central Park Conservancy is a not-for-profit that actually runs and maintains the park under contract with the city. The Conservancy, that's a big thing. For them to turn around and come out in favor of a ban, that's pretty decisive. The Conservancy cited a string of dangerous incidents in the park, including runaway horses that injured drivers and spooked passengers, along with damage to newly repaved park drives and repeated violations of sanitation rules. It is time to turn the page, Conservancy President Betsy Smith wrote in a letter to Adams and Council Speaker Adrian Adams. New York Class, that's really the biggest advocacy group that's been trying to get rid of the carriages, noted that public opinion and institutional backing are increasingly aligned against the carriages, with polls showing 71% of New Yorkers in favor of a ban and the Central Park Conservancy now urging council action. The group said Adams's announcement should spur Speaker Adrian Adams to schedule a hearing and move Riders Law forward this year. That's the bill before the council to ban the carriages. And that is a big shift. Part of what always saved them back in the day is the majority of New Yorkers were against a ban. Now, if those figures are right, that's changed, which doesn't surprise me. Industry representatives backed by the Transport Workers Union Local 100 have long countered that the horses are well cared for and that eliminating the trade would erase good-paying jobs for roughly 200 workers, many of them immigrants. Interesting side note about that. The reason there's a union in the carriage industry, this has to be one of the only times in history that the union was brought in by the owners. The owners wanted to unionize the workforce so that they could deploy the union to fight against groups like PETA that were trying to get them banned. They needed the institutional muscle of a union to meet the muscle of these organizations. It was not the drivers that unionized, it was the owners that brought the unions in. Christina Hansen, a carriage driver and spokesperson for the industry, pushed back strongly. She argued the campaign to eliminate horse-drawn carriages is rooted not in animal welfare, but in, quote, politics, corruption, and real estate, pointing to former real estate executive Stephen Nislik, a co-founder of New York Class, who she says has spearheaded efforts against the industry since 2008. They have tried every single tactic, from getting a mayor elected in 2013, promising a ban on day one, to using the power of rulemaking in the agencies to buying the Conservancy off with donations, Hansen said. She maintained that the carriage trade remains a safe and historic part of city life, pointing to the long history of horses in Central Park. All we want is to drive our horses in Central Park as we have so safely since the park opened in 1858, Hansen said. This is a fight for the soul of New York City. You don't compromise on that. So this is John Samuelson, the international head of the Transportation Workers Union. The mayor is totally betraying local 100 blue-collar carriage drivers. He knows full well the horses aren't mistreated. He's sold his soul to the highest bidder. New York Class is deeply connected to Manhattan real estate, and it's all about development of the West Side stables. All right, so what are they talking about? She mentioned it. Samuelson mentioned it. Yeah, I mean, in New York, there's always a real estate angle, right? So this article came out back in 2017. As real estate execs sought Carriage ban, he pitched affordable housing near stables. So emails came to light to the mayor's office, is in part. According to the email, Steve Nislik, a real estate executive, had an idea about how to build affordable housing in Midtown Manhattan. In coordination with the executive director of the advocacy group, New York Communities for Change, Jonathan Weston, Nislik believes he has developers interested in 50-50 model for land between 43rd and 56th Street in Manhattan, Lupo wrote, meaning 50% affordable housing, 50% market rate. Clinton Park Stables, Manhattan's biggest stable, is on 52nd Street. There's also a stable on 48th Street. MBDB, or Mayor Bill de Blasio, it would seem, should ask Nislik to send any developer who has land and an interest in a rezoning with 50% affordable to de Blasio's economic development aid. So yeah, all of the carriages, all of the carriage stables sit on very, very valuable real estate, all very close to the Javits Center, which is the main convention center in New York. There's a stable on 37th Street run by, I guess I can say that publicly, it's a matter of public record, the Burns brothers, who's have inherited the business from their father. 38th Street is what we used to call the Italian stable. That's mostly Italian drivers and owners. You got Chateau Stables. That's the one Tom O'Neill, who wrote Chaos, worked out of. That was how we got him on Jimmy's show, because I appealed to him at one carriage driver to another. And 52nd Street, that's on the same block the Daily Show studio is on. That's the main stable that I worked out of. Now, Cuomo, trying to jump out ahead of the parade, he kind of stuck his finger in the wind to see which way the wind is blowing. Now he's issued a statement that he's in favor of the ban. This is what I'm saying. It's going to get banned. There's too much momentum against it now. Mamdani predictably answered a questionnaire that he would ban it. De Blasio, who ran on banning it, but then never did, I think because of pressures from labor, from the union. It really is time to get this done. Thanks, NYC Mayor. You know who's not a Johnny-come-lately to this issue? Curtis Sliwa, surprisingly enough. This is back in 2021. He was calling for people to come to a protest, and this is back in August.
Animal lover. Yeah.
Yeah, this is August this year. And here he put out a video from his wife. I didn't even know he was married. A message from Nancy Sliwa. There was a horse death earlier in the summer. This horse has died today because of abuse and a city hall that won't ban horse carriage rides. It's disgusting. The city refuses to ban horse-drawn carriages. How many more have to suffer before something changes? We will not let this continue. Vote for Curtis Sliwa for mayor on the Protect Animals Independent line. We will end animal abuse immediately. Okay, so we have a crazy system in New York where you could just kind of throw up a party and get a ballot line on it. So usually the candidates are running on multiple ballot lines. So here's his wife talking about this. Now, I'm going to talk about some of what these videos show purportedly and what they actually show. And then, of course, the question you're probably wondering, what do I think about the animal cruelty question? I will get into it.
We're here and we're monitoring yet another disastrous animal welfare issue going on in New York City with the horse carriage drivers, with these beautiful creatures who are now suffering every single day because the city council will not act to make sure that we're protecting them. So a horse named Lady has just, it sounds like it might have passed away, 51st Street, 11th Avenue. We have third world countries that have these types of industries that continue to go on without having to abuse animals, these beautiful creatures. When this horse goes home right now, its home is a parking garage, okay? No air. As you can see, look how sickly and tiny this horse looks. Oh my God, look how ridiculous this is.
All right, so I'm just going to point this out right now, and this was something that I used to hear a lot when I drove a carriage. In New York City, most people don't have experience with horses, and most of the people who are activists in this space don't have experience with horses. A lot of times they'll mistake a breed of horse that's not built like a draft horse, like a smaller horse, as if the horse is starving. The horse you just pointed out was a standard bred or a quarter horse. It's not like a Percheron or a Belgian. Those are like the big horses that look more like Clydesdales. Those horses were like a kind of intermediate racehorse before they got to like thoroughbreds and really fast horses. So they kind of have strength enough to do the job, but they're faster than a draft horse would be. Now, me personally, I never liked really driving those horses because they tend to be jumpier, but she's wrong. Like, it's not small because it's starving. It's a different breed.
Yeah, so again, another like disastrous, horrific instance of animals being abused in New York City with no recourse. It's time to end this industry and time to start protecting these animals who have no voices, where we can help them have a voice.
Okay, so here's something. Now, this is part of why I think there's been so much momentum against the business, to the point that now I don't think it's going to survive this time. This has been going on for 30 years. They've been probably longer that they've been trying to ban the carriages. So social media has not been good for this business, because in the end, I mean, livestock, sometimes they're going to get sick. Things are going to happen. You got, a couple of hundred horses. Once in a while, you're going to get a horse get sick on the street, and it doesn't look good. So I'm going to show you this. And, if you don't know anything about horses, this is going to look like one thing, but it's actually another.
So, there he goes.
Seeing some of that footage, huh?
All right, so what's happening with that horse almost certainly is that the horse is colicking. This happens sometimes. Now, you could say that's a result of the unnatural diet that domesticated horses have, where they're eating all of this grain and hay. Sometimes it impacts in their stomachs, and they can't pass it, and then they'll collapse. Now, because horses have such heavy organs, if you don't get the horse up, the horse could die. So when you see them trying to get the horse up, it's not because they're trying to make the horse work. It's because they're trying to keep the horse from dying. I had that happen to me once. It's really terrifying. You have to keep the horse walking or the horse is going to die. And usually you'll feed it like castor oil or something until you can get it to a vet. There's an injection they can give the horse to clear it. Sometimes they actually have to put their hands up the horse's ass to clear that. There's something that happens to domesticated horses. It's not particular to carriages. Now, this is something that certainly happened to me. This was pretty recent, an out-of-control horse. I think this happened a couple of months ago. Okay. All right. So, back in the day, things like this happened, and they were rare. But hey, man, they weren't all over social media when they did. I mean, I had a horse break its bridle in the middle of Times Square and take off with the carriage. But, everyone didn't have a phone recording it, or that shit definitely would have been on social media back in those days. So is this animal cruelty? I'll say this, like, if you believe that animals should not labor, like animals should not work, I think that's what really decides that. The idea that you've got all of these carriage owners starving their horses, like, why would you do that? That's your livelihood. Like, even just on a mercenary basis, I did not see people who were not properly feeding their horse. There's a routine. They go back to the stall. There are stablemen. There's hay, and you're going to bring out a bucket of oats every time you take out the horse. In terms of the overall day-to-day labor, a carriage horse in doing this works a lot less than a horse on a farm. And this is part of where I say, like, a lot of people who are in that activist space, they don't really know anything about farms, because very often they'll say, well, it should be on a farm. What do you think a horse does on a working farm? Like, what do you think a horse does on an Amish farm? They're pulling a plow for 12 hours a day. Usually these carriage horses, they're working maybe 2 hours. Most of the time they're standing around eating, like they're really not worked to the point of exhaustion. It's very strictly regulated in terms of what kind of weather you're allowed to bring the horse out in. And the idea that they go into a stall, well, what do you think they go into on a farm? Like, you think they just run around? I mean, like pet horses do. But if it's a working horse, they go into a stall. However, is it dangerous? I always said about it, I am surprised there are not a lot more accidents than there are. I used to say before I got this gray, every gray hair I got was from driving a horse, man. I was in situations that were absolutely terrifying with the horse and carriage. I had a horse take off once down the street where I could not stop it anyway but to direct it towards the sidewalk and hope it stopped, and finally it did. I had the people in the back of the carriage saying, everything all right? My hands were up front like this. I'm turning around like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. You're good.
Because, look, at the end of the day, yes, these draft horses have been bred to be calm, but they're horses, man. They're horses. Their whole instinct is to run from danger, and you're driving it around in a city that's full of the kind of shit that would scare the hell out of a horse. Garbage trucks look like fucking dinosaurs. What do they think a garbage truck is? A big animal, right? Like, it's growling, it's crunching, right? Like, it was, yeah. I was very fortunate. Like, I knew a guy who broke his leg in 3 places. Like, there are things that you don't hear about because it's the kind of industry where everything is dealt with under the table and behind the scenes. Like, if you got hurt, you'd work that out with your boss. They'd pay the medical bills. It would be something like that. That having been said, relative to like taxis or other types of, transportation that's on the street, they don't have a disproportionate number of accidents, which again, I think is a fucking miracle. I don't think it's animal cruelty by definition. I do think it's more dangerous than a lot of people realize it is. And at the end of the day, it was inevitable that once people had these phones where they were going to show these kinds of things on social media, where, as I point out, a lot of what you're seeing, people don't even understand, like, what they're seeing. But you're not going to explain to them, oh, no, that's colic. What they see is a horse falling down on a street. The industry, for a very long time, has been hanging on a knife's edge. It was inevitable. It was not going to survive that kind of publicity.
Yeah, there's fewer and fewer horses I noticed, around the park. You don't see them as much as you used to, and it's great numbers. My father-in-law has a farm on his house, and they get horses every once in a while. And they got horses. They had a horse. He was a beautiful horse, big, strong horse. I mean, this was like an Amish workhorse. I mean, this horse was gigantic.
Right.
Yeah. Gorgeous. But he was a lazy bastard. That's why my father-in-law ended up with him. The Amish said that he won't work. He doesn't want to work. He just wants to sit around and eat for free. He was actually Zoran Mamdani's horse.
Yeah.
And so they say he doesn't want to work. He just wants to get things. And so they shipped him off to my father-in-law's. My father-in-law had him for a while. And then he gave him somewhere else because it was a huge, massive, built like a fucking bull. So, yeah, it's all about the context, I guess. It's all about the context because, yeah, that's why this horse got the boot, because he wouldn't work. So yeah, they still do work horses out there. They don't work them as much as they used to with the technology, but they still do work them on the farms. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Amish do. And frankly, very often we would get them from the Amish, and not always. Not always. You know, I mean, that's who else breaks a horse to a carriage? The Amish. So
right.
most of the horses are supplied by the Amish.
Right.
Sometimes they be what you call head shy, where,
Yeah.
you know, if you lift your hand up and they rear back, it means people have been hitting them in the face. So, like, they're not, like, there's this very idealized image of what a horse's life is like on a working farm.
Right.
And it's not like that. That's why I say, look, man, these horses are pretty pampered as work horses go. If you think that this is animal cruelty, then you have to extend that to working animals generally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an animal lover. I love horses, and so yeah, obviously, I would be against any kind of animal cruelty. In my experience, looking at the Central Park horses, they mostly just hang out and get fed shit and take pictures with people. Like, most of the job is just like hanging around taking selfies. Yeah.
Well, it's anthropomorphizing like they're Disney horses.
Right.
Like the horse, oh, I wish I were on the farm. You know, it's not like that, man. The horse basically, you take the horse to the park. The horse wants its oats. You give it its oats. It's like a pacifier. And it'll chill for a little while. You do a couple rides. They know what time it is. As it starts to get late, they're going to start to get ornery because they want to go back to the barn and eat their hay. You take them back to the barn. They run up to their stall. They eat their hay. Done. That's their life.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We will move right on along here. Folks, just a quick pause here. A moment of your time. John Coa, one of our dissident sponsors, has a new single out. It's called Just a Little Off the Rails. So for those familiar with John's work, he's been a sponsor of ours for a while. This is the latest preview from his upcoming album called A to Z. The foundation of these tracks began as raw live acoustic performances captured a few years ago. Initially, John considered releasing just those solo acoustic versions, but he found it easier to make the art than to put it out. But now these tracks are seeing the light of day. Just a Little Off the Rails is the first single. It's an autobiographical song with lyrics that may hit home for a lot of people. It's a great tune. We've played it on the Rumble side a few times, so go to John Coa's Spotify page to give it a listen. His YouTube channel is youtube.com/JohnCoa, or you can find a link to all of his socials at dudissidents.com/Coa. Pardon me. Okay. All right. Let's take some Rumble rants and Super Chats, shall we? Goo81 says the number one billionaire is as Canadian as you can be. Changpeng Zoa, $70 billion, CEO of Binance. Thank you for that. Vito says, or maybe Don Vito Corleone, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Cancer sucks, you guys rock. Whichever one you want, we will make it happen for you. Mark Pugliese says, I have the sound off. The only thing I want to hear Shmuley say is, Goo81, should he complain to Mayor Eric Adams for those blocks and the current problems with NYC? Yes, indeed. The blocks are a red herring. I mean, it's bullshit. There's not blocks everywhere. There's a few different places
And
where
a few
you got
places,
traffic,
yeah.
whatever.
Mostly in Lower Manhattan.
Yeah, there's no blocks. Yeah, that's not like a normal thing. They don't put blocks in the middle of the street for no reason. I'm amazed, says Goo81. No one stared at him with his bizarre, goofy clothing where Shmuley starts going off. Are you looking at me because I'm a Jew? Yeah, exactly. I'm not normal, and that is
I
weird
guess
to
he
me,
lives
says my
here,
real
right?
name.
I mean, because he does all these
Yeah, I think he
videos,
splits
yeah.
his time between Israel and New York. Yeah, he's in New York a lot. Just something important, 13G countries recognizing Palestine today. Yes, well, we will get into that because the UN General Assembly is this week. So, yeah, there was the UK announcing that today, Canada announcing that today. So, yeah, we will definitely cover that. We will definitely cover that throughout the week for sure. Mark Pugliese says Zoran should initiate a system on the rent control like the San Culottes did in Paris. Thank you. Vanticus Prime says Building 7 didn't Epstein itself. Building 7 went down as the first COVID death. Building 7 was the second building on the grassy knoll. Building 7 is 0 for 1 in singing Godsmack songs. Thank you, Vanticus Prime. Appreciate that.
You know, somebody mentioned this. I forgot to say this. It won't be in the segment, but I think it's by law now. The horses get turned down for 2 months a year.
Huh.
So they're not in the stall 12 months a year.
Hillary Hinton, dirtbags, LOL, on the mic, shrapnel. If they can make thousands of pagers explode and track owners of cell phones years after their purchase, they could definitely explode a microphone. Yeah, I just have not looked into that yet. Like, I saw the thread, I bookmarked it, I will look at it. I did not have time to actually dig into that. Ricky Roma, says Kem and G. Patel, Kash Patel, where'd you find this guy at a morgue? Odin couldn't knock sense into this guy, and the god Loki too in the bargain. Thank you, Ken and G. Appreciate that. All right, what do we got over here on the YouTube side? Katrina Greshner. Taibbi's podcasting partner, Walter Kern, is more sympathetic to Israel after October 7th. MT says he's more sympathetic to Palestine. Maybe they just want to avoid arguing, or mild-mannered Matt does. Hey, you know what? I'm
Yeah.
We said what we got to say, and that's that. Captain T, Shmuley, whoever sold you that outfit had a good sense of humor. Yes, indeed. You got to stop all those anti-Semitic words like peace, Palestine, or human rights. Yeah, exactly. Give Shmuley a cigar. He's hip Fidel Castro. Thank you for that very much. All right, what do we got here? Race Car says, hey, you guys recovering okay from the Bree beatdown last Thursday? Holy smokes, that was intense. Healing tip, put an ice pack on the bruised areas. Helps reduce the swelling. Thanks, Race Car. SB.
I don't think there was any beat down there. I mean, there was definitely a board down for me because him and Bree would not let this fucking shit go.
Board down.
Like,
yeah.
Can I leave?
Yeah, can I leave? Do I have to be here? SB, Israel probably killed Kirk. Shout out to the ACP for 1, having discipline, no idiots cheering, 2, still criticizing Kirk, and 3, blaming Israel for it. There you go. That's a trifecta in my book. Thank you, SB. Legally, influencers should share. I don't believe Tyler Robinson will self-delete. CIA media already started Tyler's on watch narrative, by the way. Yeah, something you always have to worry about, obviously. Jay Klein, unlike when JFK was assassinated, we have real-time video. We know what the government is capable of. Well, this is the other thing. You know, nowadays you got cameras everywhere. There's cameras everywhere. Excuse me. He's the Andy Kaufman of Zios. Thank you for that. Rose Blossom says, hate being reminded of Bernie. Hurts. Don't blame you. Don't blame you, Rose Blossom. Thank you for that. All righty, folks. So we're going to move right on along here. Okay, so our friend Max Blumenthal was recently on with Chris Hedges, and there's a clip that I really wanted to play for you guys because I think it's pretty chilling and kind of mind-blowing. So I just want to, just so we don't play most of the video, just set it up. So what he's talking about here in the video, and this is a very obviously loose, overview of this, a strategy of tension. So the strategy of tension, just to give this a little context, refers to a period of political violence and social unrest in Italy, predominantly during the late 60s through the early 80s, known as the Years of Lead. The goal was to use terrorism and massacres to create a climate of fear and instability, which perpetrators hoped would push the public to accept a more authoritarian government to restore order. So Maxon, this is about 3.5 minutes. He lays out a case, and I think a very compelling one, a very chilling one, that the government and the oligarchs, the ruling class, if you will, is employing a strategy of tension here in the United States now, and he traces this back to 2020, not only with COVID, but with the Kyle Rittenhouse case. And I think this is really worth watching, and so let's take a look.
Tension in the U.S. has been building since 2020. And I can point to one incident then that I think is a perfect microcosm of what I'm talking about. Kenosha, Wisconsin, the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting, which is poorly understood by people on the left who supported BLM. Kyle Rittenhouse was acting in a vigilante fashion to guard local business with his weapon out, along with other local men, from looters and rioters who were destroying local businesses in a completely nihilistic fashion. A group of pro-BLM marchers was marching around soon after looting. They were not smashing up businesses, they were just marching randomly. And their own crowd had been seated with people who had never protested before, one of whom was a local mental patient, a young man who had just been let out mysteriously of a local mental hospital and dropped off at their demonstration by police. The police directed the marchers directly to where Kyle Rittenhouse and his group of vigilantes were, and several of the marchers began physically attacking Kyle Rittenhouse. One pulled a pistol on him. Kyle Rittenhouse shot them. He also shot the young man who had been a mental patient. And this inflamed racial hatred across the United States, as Kyle Rittenhouse was actually accused of going across state lines to hunt down black people. The police had no reason to push the crowd and direct them to where Kyle Rittenhouse was, except to inflame that conflict. Do I know that there was some higher order there? No, but this was what I was seeing in my own, just being out there in the country at the time. And it was also at a time when COVID was beginning to grip the country and the unvaccinated were being pitted against the vaccinated. We're just constantly being pitted against each other by narratives that come from the top.
Okay, so the vaccine question was really more during the Rittenhouse trial, I think, but that's basically what he's saying, because the trial was 2021. The event was 2020 when we were still at each other's throats over COVID. And I think he says a lot there that's just pretty mind-blowing. I had known about mental patients going to the rally. I had never heard that they were corralled toward Kyle Rittenhouse, toward where they knew that this kid was, doing his sort of vigilante exercise there. I mean, if that's true, then yeah, I feel pretty comfortable saying that that was essentially orchestrated. And once you kind of hear that and think about that, you put that in the context of COVID, and really when you trace a lot of this unrest back to an origin point, that was really, I think, the origin point. I mean, you talk about a pressure cooker, talk about just putting a society through hell and forcing them to turn on each other, creating this environment of paranoia and fear, tapping into very primal fears, and airborne toxic event, right? And, I always thought that the political objective of the COVID crisis was to basically stomp out the sort of populist surge in politics around the world and sort of force people, whether they wanted to or not, to trust the quote-unquote experts again. Basically, oh, you thought it was all fun and games putting these bombastic clowns in office. Well, what happens when there's a public health crisis and they have no idea what to do about it? Now you just have to take our word for things again. You might not want to. You may not trust us. You may not have any reason to trust us, but you're going to if you want to go to the supermarket without a cloth tied around your face ever again. That's what I always assumed the objective was. But then you hear a thing like this, especially put in the context of a strategy of tension, and you start to think, well, maybe it was actually larger than that. Maybe the unrest was the point. Maybe the conflict was the point. Maybe the chipping away at the underpinnings of civil society was the point. Maybe inflaming sectarianism was the point. And then you add that to this Kyle Rittenhouse story. That's pretty chilling stuff. We have more. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this lately, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. It's weird now, we were a few years out of this period, but when you look back now, everyone went kind of crazy. And if you were in it, you almost didn't even realize that you went crazy.
Yeah.
But you did. If you look back now, you went kind of crazy.
Yes.
If you get ambitious and you find our videos from that period, me and Keaton look fucking nuts, man.
We do look nuts.
Keaton's hair is like this, and my head is shaved.
Yeah.
we look like we're in a John Carpenter movie about the end of the world.
Yeah.
Doing the podcast.
There are very few
back
videos
then.
at the time because you're mostly an audio show at the time, but there are a couple probably out there.
There are a few. It was bad. And looking back, honestly, over the last several decades, it just seems like there are these trigger points that just have ratcheted up that tension. I mean, 2001, the contested election, things were definitely very different in the country after that election. They were never the same again. And then, of course, you get 9/11 not long after that election. And then 2016, whoever you wanted to see win, whatever your political opinions are, things got much worse in the country after that in terms of the polarization, the normalization of the idea of suppressing speech, or that certain people shouldn't be allowed a voice. Because look what happens. You let them speak, Donald Trump gets elected, which of course now is coming back on a lot of people who advocated that point of view. And then you get COVID. I mean, I'll just say, as someone who's been an adult through all of those events, it's like the country has just faced all these inflection points and come out with like the worst possible outcome. It's just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. None of these events allowed us to rise above and become a better country. In all of these events, we became a worse country.
Well, exactly. And that is what suggests a strategy of tension, right? Because, I think Trump was an accelerant of that because he did provide an opportunity to ratchet the tension further, right? It's not to exonerate Trump and say he plays no part in this. No, he's an intrinsically divisive and polarizing figure, but that makes him a perfect accelerant to a strategy of tension and a push towards a collapse. And after a social collapse, I mean, Jimmy says it, chaos favors the establishment. Look at who stands to benefit from a collapsed society if this all goes to hell the way people in power seem to want it to now. That's a question you really have to ask yourself, and that's a question I've been urging people to ask themselves before they act in ways that make this current cataclysmic moment more divisive, right? You could either you could either try and turn the temperature down and be your best self and treat people kindly. It's not to say you surrender your political opinions or you don't speak out, but it's just like, do you actually try and do your best now to avoid the kind of collapse that seems to be the plan? Or do you walk right into their trap? And there are ways you can do that without even realizing. And that's a great segue into the second part of this video where he brings up Luigi.
And that is where Trump wants this to go, because Trump has promised a new golden age for the 1%. It's not for the rest of us.
Yes.
And the 1% has been terrified, not just since the Charlie Kirk shooting is primarily terrifying the podcaster class. Since the shooting of, I think his name was Brian Johnson, the United Healthcare CEO, by Luigi Mangione. Steve Bannon, former Trump chief of staff, gave a talk to a group of financial elites and tech elites. I believe it was in Silicon Valley. Many of them were not Republicans. And he said, here is our promise to you. Here's why. This was like, I think at the beginning of the second Trump term. He said, this is why you should support MAGA. Because this guy, Luigi Mangione, went out and shot one of you. This is going to happen more and more. We are entering a period of social unrest and social turmoil, and we will protect you. So what we are going to see now is a policy crafted for the elite that is terrified of this environment, and at the same time a policy to drive us, the rest of us, who have nothing, who are in debt, who are don't really see much of a financial future in the U.S. They're going to pit us all against each other through a strategy of tension and then repress us all and let us say whatever we want online. We won't be banned anymore. We can say whatever we want on Elon's Twitter X. We have freedom of speech. As he said, we have freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. And that freedom of speech will be used to surveil us further and ruin our lives if we are provoked into saying the wrong things.
Okay, now that to me is completely mind-blowing. There's certain, like I said, I don't watch much anymore because I'm too busy. But there are certain things, there are certain videos, certain little passages that you watch, and it really just kind of hits hard and makes you rethink a lot of things. And that bit about Luigi and the killing of Brian Thompson and Steve Bannon using that as a pretext to extend an olive branch to these elites who were not for Trump in his first term. and they were not Republicans during Biden's term. And most of them didn't really support Trump during the 2024 campaign. You had Elon join. He joined pretty late. He joined after Butler. I think a lot of them kind of were less hostile to Trump in the 2024 campaign because they kind of could sense that there's a good chance he might win.
Right.
But they were not really allied with Trump until he started his second term. And what Max is saying there is that the Luigi event was pretext for Bannon to say, look, things are going to get messy in this country, and we can protect you if the peasants get rowdy. So if the effect of Luigi was consolidation of elites and oligarchic capital behind a far-right agenda of repression, surveillance, and censorship, at that point, do you not have to ask the question that we've asked of every other one of these high-profile shootings and cataclysmic events? Do you not ask the question at that point, was Luigi an op? Was the killing of Brian Thompson an op?
There were a lot of weird things around Luigi, too.
There were weird things about that he was smart enough to pull off the crime and escape the most highly surveilled island in the world, but he kept his weapon and his manifesto on him a couple days later.
Right.
To me, you have to ask that question because a lot of us were so caught up in the emotion of it, and because no one is going to have sympathy for a health insurance CEO. Obviously, a health insurance CEO is going to be the most reviled guy you can think of. You're, of course, going to get an outpouring of schadenfreude and an outpouring of gloating, which is going to what? It's going to scare the elites more. It's going to make them more susceptible to say, all right, you know what? Donald Trump, not my cup of tea, but if you guys are building a police state and we can help you build that police state and add a surveillance state to that with our tech prowess, maybe this is a bargain we have to make. And so if that's the way it all went down, then wouldn't that whole event may as well have been an op? And weren't a lot of us who engaged in the meme play and the schadenfreude of it, weren't we walking into that trap all along? This is what our friend Caleb Maupin said. He wrote a whole book about it. He said no more years of lead, alluding to what Max is talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably got a lot of shit at the time because he was kind of a wet towel, right? He was ruining everybody's fun. But this is why I admitted to Bree. You got to be a man to admit when you're wrong. I think I was wrong. I think he was right. And I think a lot of people didn't realize that maybe that was the plan. Maybe the plan was create an event that scares the elites into the arms of MAGA. And then we have all of the infrastructure and capital we need to build out the Palantir state. Is that what happened? We don't know. But when you see something like that and you say, okay, what was the result of that? Result of that was a consolidation of power behind a far-right program. And so this is why I think the question now becomes, okay, how do we resist the strategy of tension? How do the people organize against the strategy of tension? What does our friend Jimmy say at the end of every comedy show? Love each other, fuck the media, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good place to start. Maybe a good place to start. Doesn't mean you don't have it. That does not mean you concede all your political points and you just, you wave a white flag of surrender. No. The late Michael Brooks used to say, be ruthless with systems, but be kind to people, right? That's kind of a good way to think of it as well, right? Like you can argue your points, you can be passionate about your politics, but you don't have to be brutal with people, because being brutal towards your neighbor, ultimately, while it may offer you an emotional catharsis, and I think especially, and I've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, in the online space, it offers a lot of very cheap and shallow emotional catharses. What are you doing? To me, you're playing right into this strategy of tension. They want us to hate each other so that we will collapse the society for them, and then they can rebuild it the way they want. And to me, the best way to resist that is to not pour gasoline into that fire for them, because to me, that's what they're trying to do. And I think Max, I played the last 3 minutes of the clip there. The whole thing's about 16 minutes. He lays out the history, puts it all in context very, very well. I encourage you to watch the whole interview, really, with Hedges was great, but especially that part of it's about 16 minutes. But yeah, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah, this is what we've been saying. You look at why does Elon address in his tour of creating social instability in every country that will allow him to speak to a crowd and tell people violence is coming for you. Why does he say that?
Right.
What is he doing? What is his intention? These people want to collapse what remains of these already weakened institutions because it's the only check left on their power. Once those things are gone, they can build their techno-feudal paradise where in the end, you're all going to be serfs working the digital lands for these tech overlords, as Giannis Varoufakis has written about. You're right that the stuff about Luigi, the Charlie Kirk stuff, they're using it to further their ends. I don't know how much of an excuse they really need. They're following this Curtis Yarvin playbook where you overwhelm the courts, you overwhelm the institutions, and as society crumbles, you set up basically a neo-monarchy in the form of an all-powerful executive CEO. If you look at what the Trump administration is doing, that's clearly what they're trying to build. Now, does Trump completely understand that? No, but his egocentric, narcissistic instincts conform well to that model. I think J.D. Vance is their person on the inside who's really structuring that. People like Stephen Miller are really the godfathers who are running things behind the scenes in order to create that kind of society. When you look at people like Mark Zuckerberg, who bent the knee, who, yes, that would be a case of somebody who doesn't naturally align with MAGA, who all of a sudden comes out, yeah, you know what? I like adrenochrome.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's a big macho anti-woke guy. Yeah, because they made a case to guys like that. They're going to come for you, man. They're going to come for you. When you look at people like Gunther Eagleman, when you look at people like Benny in the Closet, this is why you really cannot have enough contempt for these people, because they are the propagandists that are helping to build that world by keeping very frustrated, very angry, mostly male, economically disenfranchised people from a lot of towns I've been to over the last couple of years that are deindustrialized, abandoned, emptied out, crumbling infrastructure, and telling them that Donald Trump is doing all this for them. And as Max pointed out, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's doing that for the people who pushed him out there as their puppet, as their front man, to build a world where they don't need you.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that, obviously. And it's not just Donald Trump. These politicians are, I mean, look, yeah, Trump is an accelerant, I think, obviously, just because of just the way he operates. And I think the elite saw a unique opportunity in that, because when you get a guy as polarizing as Trump in power, what does that do? That just creates more tension, right? Because Donald Trump doesn't even know how to do what J.D. Vance said, where he's, J.D. Vance, when he's on Charlie Kirk's show, he says something like, most Democrats aren't violent, but a lot of the left did. But Trump doesn't even qualify with that. Trump just goes right at people in the most hostile way possible to put them on edge, and that is he is a perfect tool for this strategy, and they're in power right now. There's nothing that can be done about that right now. So then people have to ask themselves, what can they do about this? And this is why I have been advising people to try and be your best self in the wake of this, because if enough of us do that, I think it creates enough goodwill to pull back from the brink. And this is another thing that people have to understand about this moment. Even if you are an accelerationist, right, of a revolutionary mindset, that's not reality right now. That's not what we're talking about. If this is going to accelerate at this point, it's going to accelerate into civil war, societal collapse, and the fast-paced direction of a fascist state. That's what's going to happen right now. So at this point, it is in all of our interests to pull back from the brink, to not engage in that talk.
Listen, man. We're always honest with the people watching.
Yeah.
A lot of times people ask, well, if you believe the things you believe, why you do what you do? You know, man, you do the right thing, and you hope the arc of things bend towards justice. I'm not a psychic. I don't know what's going to happen. What do I think's going to happen? I think America is going to collapse into fascism. The West is going to collapse into a kind of backward, dark age, and the center of economic, political, and social gravity is going to move to the east.
Yeah,
that's where I think we're going.
Yeah, that may very well be true, and I think the odds are that is true. But to me, that does not change the calculus that you always fight to make things as good as you can.
Well, yeah.
And there's ways to do that, and there's ways not to do that. And I believe that contributing to this strategy of tension, helping the elites execute this strategy of tension, while it might feel like resistance, it's actually the opposite. It's actually surrender, because what you're doing is you are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of societal collapse.
Yes.
That's me. It's an act of surrender. There's a nihilism about it.
Sure.
And
Sure.
that nihilism is so depressing when you contrast it to a movement like the African People's Socialist Party, where we go to North St. Louis, a community so afflicted by poverty and immiseration and neglect, and you see people come together and create this amazing place, this amazing farmers market where you got, anti-colonial literature, you got a t-shirt stand with Free Palestine and all this stuff on it, and you got artisans selling their wares, you got people growing food, you see people building something. There's something very inspiring about that, as opposed to the sort of online expression of outrage, which just strikes me as an expression of despair. That is what I urge people to kind of think about right now.
And if you notice, when you're around those people, they're pretty unplugged, man.
Yes.
Like, they're really not sitting around and, did you see this? Did you see this? Their heads are out of that. But this is part of what can be so frustrating. The problem is so enormous, because you're talking about decades of social engineering, I believe, going all the way back to the Powell memo. They have been building a world where people are ignorant, divided, and fighting over things that are beside the point for fucking 50 years, 60 years. People are so far removed from the kind of philosophical evolution that you need to do things like this. Like, particularly COVID, yes, it was an accelerant on trends that were already at play. People are so socially isolated. You're talking about generations coming up that have lost the knack of community. And politics is community. Like what you're describing is community. It's an enormous undertaking to change this trajectory. Very smart people with a lot of money who have been in control of the communications, who have been in control of education, have done a lot to destroy the human mind. You're talking about people whose minds are just destroyed and completely disconnected from one another and from higher reality. Like, you're talking about a spiritual and a philosophical problem as much as a logistical one, because you can't conquer the logistics when people are this mentally broken. You have to rebuild humanity virtually.
Yeah, and I think part of that is making the decision to actually embrace humanity and not to succumb to nihilism and despair. You know, the fight to survive has a material component that begets a spiritual component that then begets a material component. Why are the Palestinians so resistant? I mean, so resilient. They're so resilient, so strong because they have to fight to survive constantly. Constantly. And that creates a resilience, both materially and spiritually. And you saw a lot of that in St. Louis. You got people, there's no semblance of a state. It's a Wild West. Half of it's destroyed by a tornado. And yet these people still get out there and do their best for each other. That's not just good for them materially because they're building economic power slowly but productively and in one direction, the right direction, but it's also building community. It's building a sense of love and a sense of camaraderie. There's spiritual power in that too. And those things can compound. And are the odds against us? Of course the odds are against us, but you're not giving yourself a chance when you give in to the kind of nihilism that I saw too much of in the wake of the Charlie Kirk shooting. That's my point. That is just nihilism. That is despair. That is surrender. And I think in its own way, the reaction to Luigi was as well. We just didn't realize it because nobody saw themselves in Brian Thompson, right? Because you pick the cartoonish example of a guy who no one could empathize with. So everyone just resorted to that. And that's what Caleb said at the time. And he was the only person I saw in this space saying it. That's why I bring him up, because he did kind of go out on a limb there. And I think time has proven him more right than wrong. And we're going to have him on soon. We're going to have him on to talk about his new book, which is not connected to this, but we'll bring this up as well. All right, we got one more segment, and then we're going to go to Q&A, but we got some super chats here. William Abbott says, 2 hatches to underground left of Charlie to an underground water engineering room, handgun, upward trajectory, no exit wound, round remained in skull. Thank you, William Abbott. This is my dream. It's pretty cool. Russ used to be a working class guy as a carriage driver. He's more relatable now. Yes, he did. I was a working class guy as an Uber driver. My horse was my car.
Yeah.
my horse was my vehicle there. Yes. Rose Blossom says, neighbor has a horse gets loose, comes to my yard, eats the grass. Love it. Oh yeah, that's cool. That's fun. Yeah, they're beautiful animals. They're great. I like this one. JM says, I wrote you a note, but it got destroyed according to my forensic analysis. It said you guys are a couple of solid MFs. Would love to talk music with Russ. Zappa, maybe? Thanks for the show. Yeah, Zappa was pretty awesome. Nick Carey says, RE, the point of COVID, there's never one point. All of the above. Things happen when points converge. Yes, totally true. Totally true. And I was just talking more about what I thought the sort of narrow political aim was. But yeah, no, you're totally right about that. Hoopo, David Hughes is a British academic who explores such things. Thank you for that. Hey, look who's here. Tusker is here. Round of applause for Tusker in the audience.
Oh, snap.
Look at that.
Look who's back.
Douglas Valentine covered Operation Gladio in the Years of Lead in the book The CIA as Organized Crime. It's also worth reading Valentine's other books. He also has plenty of insightful interviews on YouTube as well. Thank you, Tusker. Appreciate that very much. Good to see you here. Everybody give a round of applause for Tusker in the chat. All right. I'm going to do one more because we got the... Yeah, all right. So I'm going to do one more ad, and then we're going to go to one more segment, and then we're going to do the Q&A. All right, folks. So, hey, tomorrow is Monday, which means a new episode of The Grifter's Bible drops. The Grifter's Bible is the mind-bending novel by El Shabooms, and it's now a free weekly series on YouTube with a soundtrack by Monumental Sonic Architecture. Follow the First Electric Church of Jesus Christ as they combine the bleeding edge of black patented neuroscience with the state-of-the-art in Michigas to beat the Great Recession. They sell visions of God to the huddled masses of Deep Ellum, Texas, and the money pours in until the local competition, the police, and the U.S. Navy decide to put a stop to it. There's ass whoopings, car chases, and a showdown at high noon on Good Friday in Dodge City. It's sci-fi noir. It's a picaresque thriller. It's a Western from 10 minutes in the future. It's The Grifter's Bible, a film series by El Shabooms with a soundtrack by Monumental Sonic Architecture. A new episode is posted every Monday at youtube.com/El Shaboom. So that is the channel. New episode drops every Monday. Tomorrow is Monday, so make sure you go and smash that subscribe button now and follow along. Fun stuff on the El Shaboom's YouTube channel. All right, we got one more segment on the evening, and then we are heading over to Rumble for the Q&A. Let's make it happen.
Okay. You might remember Elon Musk, who is a big Tropic Thunder fan, apparently, dropping this bomb back in December, before Trump even officially got into office. The reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of H-1B. Take a big step back and fuck yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. Okay, well, Donald Trump had a response to that this week.
Go home and get your fucking shine box.
Because he just signed a new bill imposing a $100,000 payment in order to bring in an H-1B visa. Here is the signing ceremony.
Mr. President, one of the most abused visa systems in our current immigration system has been the H-1B non-immigrant visa program. This is supposed to allow highly skilled laborers who work in fields that Americans don't work in to come into the United States of America. What this proclamation will do is raise the fee that companies pay to sponsor H-1B applicants to $100,000. This will ensure that the people they're bringing in are actually very highly skilled and that they're not replaceable by American workers. So it'll protect American workers, but ensure that companies have a pathway to hire truly extraordinary people and bring them to the United States to work.
We need workers. We need workers. We need great workers. And this pretty much ensures that that's what's going to happen. I think, Sean, do you agree with that?
Well, they're $100,000 per year. So the whole idea is no more will these big tech companies or other big companies train foreign workers. They have to pay the government $100,000, then they have to pay the employee. So it's just not economic. If you're going to train somebody, you're going to train one of the recent graduates from one of the great universities across our land. Train Americans, stop bringing in people to take our jobs. That's the policy here, $100,000 a year for H-1B visas, and all of the big companies are on board. We've spoken to them about the gold card.
They love it. They love it.
That's got to be one smart Korean.
Our special Howard Lutnick sound drop. All right, so keep that in mind. $100,000 a year. It's going to come up later. This is Mark Warner talking about the implications of this.
The visa overhaul executive order that would require a $100,000 fee for the visa authorization. Do you see companies paying this? Will this help the job market?
I guess there's nothing that President Trump's going to do that's going to surprise me. There have been certain like E4 and E5 programs, kind of a bit more obscure, where there's a kind of a pay to come in. H-1Bs, I think many companies will pay, but how does that young entrepreneur, how does that person, particularly as we exclude some of our graduate students from other nations? I want to take a full look at what the president's proposing, but we still need to attract world-class talent in America. And unfortunately, because of the anti-immigrant flavor of a lot of the president's policies, we are not getting the same caliber of folks coming to our graduate programs, universities, and frankly, even in trying to come and work in America. And that's long-term going to hurt our economy.
So this is coming from the other side. Chuck Grassley desperately trying to get his Gen Z grandson to read his tweets. I read tech cuz and biz groups dislike Trump's $100,000 H-1B fee, yo. If they had not opposed over 10 years, send Durbin and Grassley H-1B reform. The abuse Trump is trying to stop would not HV been prob. It is today plus Trump WLD not need to take action. I bet you tech companies now regret Oppo to Grassley Durbin. Please call me.
He does
Dustin.
this a lot.
Call me Dustin, please.
This guy's like 90 years old and he tweets like that all the time. Like, what is that? Like, I don't get that.
It's very weird. Okay, so the essence
So like the
of
lyrics of an MIA album.
Yeah,
right?
the point there is, well, you could have done this the easy way. We had a bill for H-1B reform, and now Trump's bringing the hammer down, so don't complain about it now. Brian Suave here says, killing the H-1B program, he's quoting, could trigger a housing crash in some markets. Finally, I want my kids to be able to afford houses. I'm willing to endorse 70% declines in my own real estate value to see this happen. So that's one take. Now, here is a very typical lib take. Now, you know, when we really got into criticizing Trump and the administration, a lot of people said, well, you guys changed. Well, no, the administration changed. Different people are in power. But of course you get, you're MSNBC. To me, what MSNBC is if Trump said black, they'd say white. Like It wouldn't matter what he did. And hey, yeah, when you are very skeptical of an administration, as you certainly have good reason to be here, yeah, it's easy to fall into that. So you have to just keep an open mind and evaluate everything afresh. Yeah, there are major problems with the H-1B visa program. Now, libs want to frame this, as they will tend to, with any question around immigration as a race thing, or this is stupid. So they've been sharing this from 14 years ago. This is a very pro H-1B visa take.
America has a secret weapon. That secret weapon is the H-1B. Without the H-1B, the scientific establishment of this country would collapse. Forget about Google. Forget about Silicon Valley. There would be no Silicon Valley without the H-1B. And you know what the H-1B is? It's the genius visa, okay? You realize that in the United States, 50% of all PhD candidates are foreign-born. At my system, one of the biggest in the United States, 100% of the PhD candidates are foreign-born. The United States is a magnet sucking up all the brains of the world, but now the brains are going back. They're going back to China. They're going back to India. And people are saying, oh my God, there's a Silicon Valley in India now. Oh my God, there's a Silicon Valley in China. Duh. Where did it come from? It came from the United States. So don't tell me that science isn't the engine of prosperity. You remove the H-1B visa and you collapse the economy. In Wall Street Journal, editorialized against a congressman who wanted to ban the H-1B, saying they'll take jobs away from the American people. The Wall Street Journal said, look, there are no Americans who can take these jobs. These are at the highest level of high technology. They don't take away jobs from Americans. They create entire industries. And so that's why we have an Achilles heel, and that's the educational system. And again, sociology majors are not necessarily going to be the ones determining the future of Silicon Valley, but physicists, engineers. We need more of.
Okay, so that is Michio Kaku, pretty well-known Japanese-American scientist. And with their usual charm here. Here's a lib account. Adam Rackus, quote, "They should train white people like me for those high-paying jobs instead of H-1Bs. Some dude who hasn't read a book in the last 5 years." Okay. All right. So let's take a look at who the biggest beneficiaries are of the H-1B program. What he said there, that this is the genius visa, that's completely wrong. There is a genius visa. That's not it. I think it's the O1 visa. They bring in domestics and cooks under this visa. Presumably, they're not all budding Anthony Bourdains. So you see, there's 2024 figures. Amazon, #1. Google's up there. Meta, Microsoft, Apple, taking advantage of these H-1B visas. So Robert Sterling, this is back in December, and this was actually in response to Elon's infamous "fuck your face" thread. Robert Sterling did the work. He dug into the figures about H-1B and who it serves and what it actually does. And this is what he came up with. "I downloaded 5 years of H-1B data from the U.S. Department of Labor website, 4 million plus records, and spent the day crunching data." God bless you, man. "I went into this with an open mind, but to be honest, I'm now extremely skeptical of how this program works." Now, to be clear, this is not the whole thread. If you want the whole thread, easy enough to find. December 28th, Robert Sterling. To start with, this program is massively popular with employers. The program has a statutory limit of 85,000 visas per year, but employers routinely receive approval for more than 800,000 applications per year. 868,000, or 10 times the limit in 2024. So already the system was being greatly abused relative to statutory regulation. Contrary to what I expected, the average salary for an H-1B is relatively low, slightly under 120,000 this year. Given that much of the H-1B debate pertains to tech workers, I incorrectly assumed the average would be higher. But this is the beauty of data, right? NAICS code 5415, computer systems design, is the category for many of the larger employers we saw above. Some of the companies here, Google, IBM, Salesforce, are household names. But what about the other large applicants here which aren't as familiar? Cognizant, Infosys, Tata. As it turns out, these are all Indian companies that import H-1B tech workers en masse. These aren't American companies that needed international talent to fill critical roles. They're foreign companies that appear to have been founded to place overseas tech workers into U.S. companies as contractors. So these are basically labor contractors. You know, you used to have these in the old days of Ellis Island. You know, they'd grab them and throw them onto construction sites back then. And very much like now, they got paid less than American workers. That's why eventually they outlawed that. You couldn't come here with a job already guaranteed. What jobs are these companies seeking visas for? A metric fuck ton of IT and software roles. Over the past 5 years, 80,000 plus computer systems analysts, Cognizant is a big player here, 50,000 plus systems engineers and architects, Cognizant and Tata, programmers, looks like Wipro and Emphasis concentrate here, and IT project managers, Infosys. The chart here shows each company's average salary for each role. I've added a shaded gray band between 80 and 120K to highlight where the preponderance of salaries fall. I've spent my career in M&A and corporate finance, and I've been involved in a lot of budget and hiring decisions. Unless we've overpaid every developer and IT person at every company I've ever worked for, 80 to 120,000 for roles like this is not market. The H-1B program isn't just Indian companies requesting visas for IT workers, though. The list of companies seeking visas for accountants is a who's who of Big Four and other prominent accounting firms. EY is crushing the competition with 16,000 plus applications. EY isn't even a major player in the world of actuaries. There's zero reason why they couldn't hire these people domestically. You can see where I'm going with this. A casual perusal of the data shows that this isn't a program for the top 0.1% of talent as it's been described. This is simply a way to recruit hundreds of thousands of relatively lower wage IT and financial services professionals. Okay, so all this about, oh, this is going to make us less competitive. We need this talent. No, they're bringing in, this is the higher end of the exploitation economy. These are the agricultural workers of IT, where they're just bringing in these people to underpay them and abuse them. A side he doesn't get into in his thread is they know because they're afraid to lose their visas that they can mistreat these workers in a way that they wouldn't be able to with Americans. And, you know, this is not the majority of H-1B visa holders, but here you see they brought in cooks under H-1B visas with an average salary of $22,000 a year. They couldn't fill that job here. They needed to bring in these cooks. They did that so they could find people they could pay that amount to. So Elon actually responded to that thread. Easily fixed by raising the minimum salary significantly and adding a yearly cost for maintaining the H-1B, making it materially more expensive to hire from overseas than domestically. I've been very clear that the program is broken and needs major reform. All right. So we've been very fair here, right? We've been very fair about, yes, this is not a solution in search of a problem. The liberal take on this is really bullshit and very misleading to not tell you how this program is actually being abused. Even Elon concedes, well, you got to have an annual fee. Lutnick repeatedly said it's going to be an annual $100,000, which, yeah, I mean, at that point, you're not going to pay that for anyone you don't really need, right? That you can't really find here. Well, not so fast. Here's everyone's favorite sugar baby, Carolyn Levitt. To be clear, this is not an annual fee. It's a one-time fee that applies only to the petition. Those who already hold H-1B visas and are currently outside of the country right now will not be charged $100,000 to re-enter. Well, that's fair enough. H-1B visa holders can leave and re-enter the country to the same extent as they normally would. Whatever ability they have to do that is not impacted by yesterday's proclamation. This applies only to new visas, not renewals, and not current visa holders. It will apply in the next upcoming lottery cycle. So you hear that? It's a one-time fee. Now, hey, that'll still cut down quite a bit. Not a lot of employers are going to want to pay $100,000 for a cook, right? Like those things will probably go away entirely. But if you can pay these people drastically less than you'd have to pay an American worker and you only have to pay it once, it'll still be worth it for certain roles. It'll definitely cut down even on that, I would say. And of course, this got community noted. United States Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick repeatedly said in an Oval Office briefing that this was an annual fee. And some of the base is not having it. Donald Ward, $100,000 per H-1B per year was what was promised. $100,000 per H-1B per year is what we demand. Lawyer Mom, the Trump walkback on H-1B is unforgivable. The program is an existential threat to future generations. Trump appears to be captured by corporate interests who care only about profit, even if the result is that citizens will end up as serfs to foreigners in our country. Huge betrayal.
Betrayal. Yeah. No, it's really was tough to see that coming, Lawyer Mom. Lawyer mom, worst
Trump-
fucking lawyer in the history of the world.
Trump betrayed his base.
Yeah.
The guy who went to North Carolina and trotted all these victims of Helene out in front of a camera, and then as soon as he got in office, refused their request for an extension of disaster relief. He betrayed his base. I can't believe it.
Seemed like Trump cares more about the rich people making profits than ordinary people. Wow.
I can't believe that.
What a
All right,
betrayal.
here's another angle on this. About 3 in 4 H-1B workers approved in 2023 were born in India. Now that is surely partly because they have set up all of these subcontracting companies to bring in mass numbers of H-1B visa holders from India. Now, this is what one account says, and frankly, I'd have to do more research to litigate this. Indians are not a benefit to the U.S. economy. They are a net negative. This is why we are upset about H-1B. And what he's saying is because they are the top holders of remittance to their home countries, with Mexico below them, then China, Philippines, and Pakistan, that ultimately they're draining money out of the economy. Again, that's a complex topic. I would have to look at some studies on that. I would imagine that would have somewhat of a deflationary effect. But again, I'm just kind of showing that that's part of the conversation here. And India, of course, is not thrilled about this. This is the statement that they put out about it. The government has seen reports related to the proposed restrictions on the U.S. H-1B visa program. The full implications of the measure are being studied by all concerned, including by Indian industry, which has already put out an initial analysis clarifying some perceptions related to the H-1B program. 2, industry in both India and the U.S. has a stake in innovation and creativity and can be expected to consult on the best path forward. Just jumping to number 4, this measure is likely to have humanitarian consequences by way of the disruption caused for families. Government hopes that these disruptions can be addressed suitably by the U.S. authorities. So, yeah, I mean, we've really been beating the living shit out of India over the past month, imposing new tariffs on India that they really did not see coming. A lot of people are interpreting that as a punishment for their role in BRICS. For a lot of India, I can tell you, having been there, everywhere you go, there are billboards for educating your children, sending them to special schools, getting tutors. Part of the Indian dream is getting your kid very well educated so that they can wind up with a tech job either there in their Silicon Valley or send them to America or have them have a career in both. And of course, this does eliminate that pressure valve for Indian society, and how that will affect their society is unpredictable. But hey, if you want to argue that's really, not a concern. Our concern is hiring American workers for these jobs. I think when you look at the fact that they were ultimately exploiting these workers and did not need these workers, you can't really make a case that this system was not broken, and that if the argument that there are Americans who could do this job, just not for what they were paying, well, I mean, the numbers prove that. So you can't really make a case, I think, against a policy like this. The irony is that he immediately backtracked on what the policy was supposed to be, which certainly would have eliminated H-1B visa holders coming into the country almost entirely if you made it $100,000 a year. Nonetheless, even $100,000 as a one-time fee, I mean, I'm spitballing here. I would imagine that would have to eliminate 70 to 80% of H-1B visa holders coming into the country. Do we have enough native talent to replace all that, that's something else. I'd have to see more information. It doesn't seem that we would, but maybe we do.
Well, it depends. I mean, you look at the, we looked at some of those sheets. Remember the African American Studies Department had an H-1B visa.
Right, exactly.
I mean, look, $100,000 as a one-time thing. I mean, look, it's all a matter of degree, right? I mean, if you're paying $100,000 a year, that's going to have to be, one talented Indian that you're bringing in if they're worth $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
$100,000 one-time fee. Of course, that's going to make it more competitive for the visa applicants, which gives the Americans an edge. It gives them less of an edge than if it were $100,000 a year, right? I mean, it's all just a matter of tweaking those dials. It's a matter of extent. And yeah, of course, you're going to have the hardliners who are going to be upset that they back down off of it. They probably see this as a compromise of sorts on the issue that they can, please as many people as they want 60% of the way. And maybe which is an uncommon tactic of these people. But this is what I mean, man. Like, look, they understand that there's a lot of backlash to their policies. They can come out and start ranting about how the polls are fake and stuff. No, they know their popularity is slipping across the board, and they have to adjust if they want to maintain power, because the midterms are high stakes for them, because the Democrats, if they get a majority, they can just investigate and just make life hell for the executive for the last 2 years, which will greatly slow the pace at which they could pursue these things, right? And so I think they're trying to make sure that doesn't happen. I don't think they're going to succeed, but this seems to be one of those instances where they're trying to get 60% of the way there with as many people as possible.
I mean, I got to say, it's an interesting experiment. Like, I don't know that anyone really knows. Like, do we have the workers? Does this wind up just having the impact because you're creating the demand that universities really crank up their professional programs where they start orienting more towards just training people to have these job skills, more like technical schools? Like, do the universities become more like technical schools in response to this, because you need to crank out these workers to replace the H-1B workers fast? I don't know that anybody knows that.
All right. Goo81. Hey, Russ, there's still horse carriage rides in Victoria, British Columbia. I recommend if you ever want to visit, would be on Halloween and do the Ghostly Walks tour. Thank you, Goo. American Sweetheart.
They have a lot of places.
Why do they keep... There's horse and carriage rides in St. Louis under the arch. We saw them there. American Sweetheart. Why do they keep feeding the horses food that will do that to them?
Same reason they keep feeding us food that does that to us.
Yeah.
It's artificial, man, because they're not out grazing in fields like that. So they're giving them more, concentrated kind of food. But yeah, it could. I mean, it's not like that happens all the time. Yeah. It's causing. I had to put my whole two hands up the horse's ass. It was not pretty, I can tell you that. It is a side effect of domestication, but it's not particular to driving carriages in New York. But I think when people see those videos, they don't know what they're seeing. Like, they see a guy trying to force this horse up. They think they're trying to make him go back to work, or that they've been worked to the point that they collapse. That's not what you're seeing.
Louise Brooks, my friend has a farm and rescues horses from the local Amish. Horses in New York City are far better cared for than what the Amish do. Thank you,
That's
Louise
why
Brooks.
I say, man, I used to always say that when people would bother me driving the carriage. I used to say, why don't you go bother the Amish?
Go bother the Amish. I just got home from Seattle mountain area, so I had to run to the store. Left while you were talking about Shmuley. Came back to hands up horses' asses. Cool, I didn't miss anything. Haha, good one. Crystal Waters, appreciate that. Lori Lamb says, totally disagree that the worst outcome has happened. The worst outcome would be the vaccine passport imposed everywhere and much, much more fascism. Okay, well, there could always be more of anything, Give it time. I am the owl. Hey, fellas, I've been taking a break from politics for a while, but I'm all the way back now. I'm not sure what the Luigi event is. All I remember was a health insurance CEO slipping on a banana peel. That's right.
That's right.
Ken Texican. Nice callback to Michael Brooks. Thank you. Thank you, Ken Texican. Monkey Rotary. So you guys saying the Amish got it right. Dang, I was hoping AI would take over and XX all of us. Thank you. Monkey Rotary. Vienticus Prime says, all I'm hearing is pay $100K to get deported. I know someone who works bringing in immigrants under these visas. She's finally starting to get the picture. My real name says, I'm not quite sure how to fuck my own face. Not that flexible or hung. Maybe with one of Shmuley's plastic schlongs. There you go. That comes in handy. Vienticus Prime says there are many facets to the Neo Manifest Destiny playbook. It's all about getting rid of those who are freedom-minded and paid decently. So which is it? I'm fucking confused. Fucking yourself in the face or fucking the wall? Look at the DZ team to provide fucking guidance. Thank you, El Casador. Well, Elon's the one who says to fuck your face, right? I think the wall is the what most people choose. All right, we're going to take some super chats and then switch to Rumble. Just a quick word. Hold on one second. Sorry. Wait, got to do this first. Hey, football fanatics, are you ready for some primetime NFL action? Tune into Westwood 1 for all the gridiron glory you crave. From jaw-dropping touchdowns to game-changing plays, don't miss a moment of the excitement. Catch every snap, every tackle, and every victory on Westwood 1. You can listen to the NFL on the NFL app, on the Westwood 1 Sports app, on westwood1sports.com via Westwood 1 station streams, or by asking Alexa to open Westwood 1 Sports. If it's the NFL, it's on Westwood 1. Right, go ahead.
So the intermission today is a tribute to Robert Redford. It goes a minute longer than the normal intermissions because fucking Robert Redford, man, he deserves an extra minute.
That's right. That's right. That's a handsome man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eric Suarez. Yeah. You have to do the contrary of what they want. When they want violence, practice love. When they want you to follow orders, be louder. David Santucci says, Noam Chomsky said that assuming the world can't be changed guarantees it won't. But if you assume it can be changed, there's at least a chance. Thank you,
I think the world can be changed.
Yeah.
And I think it will change. I mean, honestly, like, I think in the end, we're going to become a more enlightened race. I think we're going to go through a dark age before we get there.
Casey McCoy says Russell was a very dreamy in his day. There you go.
Oh, thank you.
Dead Cat Blues Band, thank you for covering the Carriage story. I was one who brought it up in the Thursday chat. There's a contingency of the audience to find this chapter of the good book Dobular interesting. There you go.
I know there is.
Yeah.
That's why I did it.
Dead Cat Blues Band, someone may explain to the lady that many of these horses may enter an interesting Cargill building and leave in a 50-pound bag with a basset hound on it. Thank you, Dead Cat Blues Band.
All right. I'll tell you a quick story for that contingent of the audience. So I used to like to hang out in this country bar that eventually got overrun by frat boys. But it used to be like, because you have these Southern refugees in New York who are up here doing a job or whatever, and they all would hang out there. And a guy comes up to me and goes, "Man, you shouldn't even be in here, man. You're not a cowboy." I said, "I'm not a cowboy, motherfucker." I put $100 on the bar. I said, "I got $100. Says I'm the only guy who worked with a horse tonight." He fucking bought me a drink.
There you go. Tusker says, stop putting American kids in debt and start financing highly skilled education for the future. Part of the problem solved. There you go. Camilo Chavez, 700,000 H-1B jobs versus 107 million job market. Viva H-1B. Thank you, Camilo Chavez. Appreciate that. All right, folks, that is our show. Appreciate you all being here very much. If you want to come and hang out for the Q&A, you can do so by going to dudissidents.com/rumble. After a brief intermission, we will head over there for the talk back. Everyone else, we'll see you back here Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thanks to Jake in the booth tonight. Thanks for the mods for keeping the peace in the chat. Thanks to the YouTubers. Thanks to the Rumblers. We appreciate you staying up with us tonight. After party starts in about 5 minutes, a little longer tonight because of the Robert Redford intermission. But if you're hanging around for that, we'll see you then. Everybody else, we'll see you Tuesday. In any case, thanks very much for being with us tonight. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.